interactive session. I don't want this just to be me lecturing everybody. I'm going to leave a lot of room at the end of this for a Q&A session, so if any of you have any questions that you want to ask me about anything that I've discussed today or anything else, then feel free to write it down and feel free to ask me at the end. So first of all, welcome all of you. It's so great to see young people here today. I'll introduce you all to myself. My name is Zuby. I am an independent rapper, author, host of the Real Talk with Zuby podcast, public speaker, and coach. I was born in the UK. My family background is originally from Nigeria, so it's wonderful to be back here. And I grew up in the Middle East in Saudi Arabia and also went to both international and British schools. I've had the honor of being able to travel to many dozens of countries around the world with my music and my speaking and everything else that I do. And so today, I really wanted to talk about some of the lessons that I have learned over the years during the course of my life, during the course of my music career, and everything else that I've been doing. And I wanted to share this especially for the young people here today, because young people, of course, are the future. So I hope that there are some things that I can advise you on today, or some seeds that I could plant in your minds and in your hearts that are going to help you all to go on and become incredibly successful in whatever it is that you choose to do. So I have called this 36 lessons from 36 years, so I've got 36 different points that I want to share with you briefly, and then like I said at the end, I'm going to open up the floor for a Q&A to answer any of your questions. So the first lesson from 36 years that I want to share with you is to make decisions that your future self will thank you for rather than resent you for. So when it comes to making decisions in your life, a great way to think about it, especially at any point in life, but especially as a young person, is to consider what your future self would think about it, right? Think about yourself when you are 30 years old, or 35, or even 40 years old, but we can go for 30, this is a young audience. Imagine what your 30-year-old self would think about the decisions that you are making in the here and in the now. And are those decisions that they would be grateful to the younger version of themselves for? I think that's a fantastic way to think about it, because you can often know, in fact, I would say you can almost always know whether you're making a good or a bad decision based on whether or not the future version of you would be proud of that. The second point I want to make, the second lesson, and this one might sound a little bit morbid, but it's not intended to be morbid or to be dark. In fact, it's something that should make you optimistic and actually spark urgency in a positive way into your life. And this is simply the recognition that every single human being in this world, all of us are mortal. At some time in the future, all of us are going to die. Every single person we know, every single person in this world, one day we are all going to pass away. Now, does that mean that we should be sad and we should be depressed and we should be worrying about all the time about this sort of impending doom? No, absolutely not. What it means is that we should treat ourselves and everybody around us incredibly well. It means that we should live this life to its maximum purpose. It means that we should strive to do everything we can to fulfill our potential in this limited time that we have on earth, and to do right by ourselves and do right by other people. And I think when it comes to motivation, a lot of people ask me what it is that keeps me motivated, and actually at its core, that is one of the fundamental things. I know I don't have an infinite amount of time to live. No one else does. So the way I treat other people, the way I treat myself, the way I live my life is based on a constant knowledge of that fact. Point number 3, very important lesson for life, is to respect and honor your parents. Now, I don't know every single person's family situation. Everyone has different family situations, of course. Some of us grow up with parents who do wonderful things for us. Some people, it's a combination. Some people have terrible relationships with their parents. However, harboring any type of resentment towards people in general, but let alone your own parents, your own family, is something that's going to just be a permanent drag in anybody's life. There are many people out there, there are many adults who all through their lives, no matter how old they are, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, they harbor that feeling. And it can be a massive anchor on people's lives. And if your parents have done and are doing a good job for you, then let them know that. Be thankful. Show the appreciation. I think that parenting is actually the most important job in this world. Every single person in this world has parents, and what it is that shapes people is largely based on that parenting. So let your parents know that you appreciate everything that you do from them, even when there's a little bit of conflict, even when you're annoying each other. It's important that that love is always there and that gratitude is always there. And speaking of gratitude, my fourth point is to practice gratitude daily. We all have so many things that we have to be grateful for and to be thankful for. And with gratitude comes perspective. If you are in a state of gratitude, if you're feeling thankful and grateful for all the things that you have around you, for your healthy body, for your friends, for your family, for the opportunities, for the future, for your youth, for your energy, for your health, there are so many things that we have to be grateful for. And what can happen when people lose that sense of gratitude and they're not conscious about it is they can get into a state that is where people start feeling anxious, people start feeling depressed, people start feeling negative about everything and everyone around them, including themselves. So it's important to make a note to practice gratitude every day, multiple times a day even. You should be thinking about the things that you have to be thankful for, because that will spur you on and it will keep you in a positive mindset no matter what happens, short term or long term. Point number 5 is to treat your body with respect. Now, you only get one body in this life. I'm big on health, nutrition, fitness, training. I love all of that. And it's important that you recognize you only get one body. If you think about many things in life, material possessions, objects, things we have, these are things that you can buy, you can damage, you can replace them, new ones come out, better ones are available. But when it comes to your body, when it comes to the human body, you only have one. And that single body has to last you your entire lifetime. So when it comes to your lifestyle choices, when it comes to your diet, when it comes to exercise, everything like that, it's incredibly important to keep that at the forefront of your mind. When people are young, they often don't think about this. They're not thinking as long term. They're not thinking that the body that they have right now is going to be the same body that they're inhabiting when they're 40 years old, 50 years old, 60, 70, 80, however long you have on this time. But when you respect that and you acknowledge that, then again, it leads you to make better choices and you can make decisions again that your future self will be very grateful for. Point number 6 is to invest consistently. When I say invest here, I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about time. I'm talking about effort. I'm talking about the relationships that you have and the relationships that you cultivate. If you invest consistently, then that is how you make massive progress in the long term. Everything you're doing now in your studies, in your learning, with your friendships, with your families, these are constant investments that you are making. And of course, investments pay off in the future. The whole concept of investing is putting in some time, some effort, some money, some resources in the here and now so that you will have more and increased benefits in the future. And I think if, as a young person, you can get into the mentality of the concept of investing, then whatever it is that you go on to do in the future, again, that's going to reap more and more dividends. That's going to compound as time goes on. Once you go on into your careers, you also want to be thinking about investing financially. That's a little bit outside of the scope of this particular conversation, but I just want to plant the seed that you should be constantly and consistently making investments in your life and with other people. Point number 7 is to not outsource your thinking. Now, when I say outsourcing your thinking, I'm talking about allowing everybody else, allowing society, allowing other forces to do all of your thinking for you. I want all young people, everybody in this world should be an independent and a critical thinker. And this doesn't mean that you don't learn ideas from other people? Of course not. This doesn't mean that you are not influenced or you don't rely on other people's expertise at times. All of these things are important. However, you don't want to be in a situation where you're not using your own brain and you're simply allowing other people to do the thinking for you and determine what you believe and how you act. And the more critical thinking that you do, then the wiser person you're going to become, the better conversations you're going to have, and the better you will be at being able to articulate your own ideas. And you'll also have your own ideas. Point number 8 is that not seeing immediate progress doesn't mean that you're not making it. So when you go and you work on any endeavor, especially anything that is difficult, anything that takes time, you're going to have moments, and these can be long moments. This can go on for weeks, this can go on for months, this can go on for days. There can be situations when you are working on something. You're creating a project, you're working on a career, you're studying something, and it can feel like you're not really moving forward. And when that happens, it's very easy to become discouraged. So I want to encourage you not to do so. Just because you're not seeing progress immediately, it doesn't mean that progress is not being made. I've had many things that I've worked on during the course of my life and my career where it had seemed like in the short term, like nothing is really happening. It seems like I'm running on a treadmill, I'm moving, but I'm staying still at the same time. It doesn't seem like I'm making forward progress. But if you keep on going and you break through certain barriers, you'll learn that progress isn't always linear. Sometimes things grow very consistently like that, but sometimes if you imagine that you're planting seeds and you're watering them, it can seem for a long time that nothing is happening. It can look every day you're just seeing the same soil, you're seeing the same dirt, you're doing the work, you're weeding, you're watering, you're feeding the plants, and it seems like nothing is happening. But then very, very quickly, at some point in the future, the plants, of course, grow and root and fruit, and you see the fruits of the labor. And life can be very similar in that regard. Point number 9 is a similar concept, but this is also the opposite. And this is that just because if you are engaging in something that's destructive, you may not always see the consequences of that immediately, but it doesn't mean the damage is not being done. Earlier on, I was talking about the importance of looking after your own body. Now, if you're a young person, you can get away sometimes with being quite reckless with your body and your habits, and you can think that you're going to be invincible forever and you're never going to have to pay a due on this, but that is not the situation. If you are causing damage to yourself or to other people, or you're engaging in that type of recklessness, then there will come a point where you see the consequences of it. So again, that's something to be very mindful of. Point number 10. This point is kind of funny, because this point is that be careful of the advice that you take. And when I say that, I mean it's best to take advice from people who have done and achieved things that you wish to do and achieve. You'll find all sorts of advice out there in the world. There is good advice, there's bad advice, there's advice that comes from a position of experience, and there's advice that comes from positions of ignorance. So again, in terms of using your own critical thinking and your own independent knowledge, it's important to think about whatever advice that you're being given. Where is it coming from? Is the person who's giving it, do they have your best intentions in mind? Or is this someone who's trying to lead you towards a path of destruction? So a great piece of advice is to be somewhat cautious with the advice that you take. With that said, if there is someone who you find admirable, someone who has done or achieved something which you wish to do or achieve in the future, then don't be afraid to ask them for help. Don't be afraid to ask them for advice. People who are successful in different departments tend to be very happy and generous and willing to share their knowledge with other people because we're trying to uplift other people. Point number 11 is to recognize that health and time are actually more valuable resources than money itself. If you doubt that, think about whether you would want to trade places with someone who is a billionaire, but they are 90 years old and they have terminal cancer. Absolutely not, right? Any person in that situation, no matter how much wealth they have, they would give everything to trade it for youth, to trade it for health, and to trade it for having more time. And so, whilst money is important, it's even more important to recognize that your health and the time that you have is very valuable. Every young person in this room right here, actually, I'm going to introduce you to a term that you maybe haven't heard of before, okay? You're all time billionaires. That means that you have over 1 billion seconds of life to live. And because time is more valuable than money, that's something that should not be squandered. You have so much time, you have many, many decades, very bright future ahead of you, and if you take the advice that I'm saying here and other knowledgeable advice, then you can go on and build wonderful and successful lives. Okay, I just realized 36 points is quite a lot, isn't it? Okay, point number 12 is that another one relating to money, and money is abundant if you create value for other people. Okay? A lot of times when it comes to the concept of money, people have lots of different ideas about it, but if you think of the way that money is made legitimately, it's simply by providing products and services of value to other people. Any of you guys, any of you want to be rich? It's okay, don't jump. Anyone want to be rich? Want to be? Okay, cool, that's fine. You know, there's some hesitancy there. Some people do, some people don't. There's nothing wrong with that aspiration, but the reality is, if that is the goal, what you have to do is you have to be of service to other people. It's not a selfish endeavor. It's a matter of doing things that help other people, and if you can provide a lot of value, especially in the economic sense, to other people, then you have the opportunity to make a lot of money, and that is how that value can be rewarded, as well as many other ways. Point number 13 is that to recognize that there is wisdom in crowds, but there is also foolishness. Just because everybody else is doing something doesn't mean that it's necessarily a good idea. Right? This is what we often refer to as peer pressure. You could be surrounded by people who are engaging in something that is immoral, or something that is self-destructive, or something that is potentially harmful to others. But just because other people are doing it doesn't mean that you need to necessarily go along with the crowd. On the flip side of that, there can potentially be wisdom in knowledge. We are living in a time where we have had several millennia of human beings all around the world learning, sharing their ideas, sharing their values, sharing their traditions and customs, and there's plenty of value and wisdom in the crowd as well. Perhaps if a lot of people are doing something, or a lot of people are saying something, then there is some wisdom and knowledge in that. So this is just saying, don't necessarily go along with the crowd just because it's the crowd. However, there can be wisdom found in that crowd as well. Point number 14 is simply that it's okay to say, I don't know. That's a sentence that I wish more people would use more often, along with, I was wrong. There can be a tendency, especially in this time, especially in this digital age, for people to think or feel like they need to know everything, that they need to have a strong opinion on everything, they need to know the answer to everything, and that's simply not realistic. None of us knows everything. In fact, we all know far less than what we know. The potential knowledge that exists out there, there's no single person on this planet who knows most of it. It's not even possible. But when you put people together and you have that collective knowledge, that's where we can really all learn from each other. So it's okay to say, I don't know. That is how we learn everything. Everything that each of us knows, there was a time that we didn't know it. And we learn it by learning from others. Point number 15 is simply to understand that all media is designed to influence you in some direction. Influence is something that is neutral as a concept. There are positive influences, there are negative influences. There are things that are neutral, but they're designed to shift you in some direction or other. So it's just simply important to recognize and understand that whatever type of media you are consuming, the purpose of it, beyond potential entertainment and education, is to influence you in some direction. So that's something that's just important to be conscious of, depending on what you are consuming. And I would naturally say that you want to focus on things that are influencing you in a positive and educational direction. Point number 16 is that competence creates confidence. A lot of people want to become more confident. And I would say that the best way of becoming truly confident is to become competent in whatever endeavor you are doing. If you lack skills or you lack knowledge or you lack experience in a certain area, of course, the natural thing is to not feel confident in it. So, of course, what is the best way to develop that confidence? It is through experience. It's through learning. It's through knowledge. The first time I was ever in front of an audience like this many years ago to speak publicly or even to perform my music, I didn't feel very confident. But standing up here on stage today, after having done this many hundreds of times in different cities and different places with different audiences on different topics, I've become a lot more comfortable and therefore a lot more confident in my ability to stand in front of a stage and to address a crowd. So whatever skill you want to develop, whatever talent you want to build on, whatever knowledge you want to gain, if you want to become confident truly in your heart in that thing, the best way to do it is by becoming good at the thing and developing the competence itself. Point number 17, and this is a very important one. Point number 17 is that you have the power to save yourself. Now, when I say that, what I mean is there are many, many people in this world, both young people and adults, who are, whether or not they realize it, they're waiting to be saved. They're waiting to be saved by a politician or by a person or by an entity or by the government or by something. And I want people to recognize that you have the power within you to save yourself. When I say this, I don't mean in a religious sense. If you want that type of salvation, that's what Jesus is for. But what I mean is in your own life and with your endeavors and what you're doing, within you yourself, you have the power, you have the seed and the potential for greatness. If there is something that you want to achieve, then yes, other people will help you if they see you helping yourself, but ultimately your success, your outcome in the long term, it's going to come down to you. And I think it's important and empowering to realize that. Similarly, lesson number 18 is to recognize that nobody can oppress you as much as you can oppress yourself. I'm going to say that again. Nobody can oppress you, and nobody will oppress you as much as you can oppress yourself. This is the power of mindset. It's very possible, and it's very common for people to lock themselves in a sort of mindset cage of their own making. The thing that holds most people back is actually their own limiting beliefs, their own doubt, their own fear of what other people may think if they try to do what they're going to do, their own fear of failure or stumbling or being made to look potentially silly in front of other people. And that's not something that you should fear. I think it's very important for people to unshackle themselves from any chains that they have in their own mindset, and again, to recognize that they have the potential and the capacity for greatness and to live accordingly. And when you do that, that is where success comes from. '19 is also about mindset. And this is to understand that your mindset becomes your reality. Now, the world is a very complicated place, and there's a lot of things that we do not understand psychologically, individually, or collectively even. However, one thing that's become very clear to me in this life is that we all see the world, we all see reality differently, not just based on our experiences, but also based on our own mindset. Now, the world is a very complicated place, and human beings are a very complicated species. There's so much good in this world, and there's so much bad in this world, right? So whether you are an optimist or you are a pessimist, you're correct. If you're looking for evidence that the world is a terrible place and human beings are awful and people are out to get you and this and that, you will find plenty of evidence for it. If you believe that you are self-empowered and you are the captain of your own ship, and human beings are generally kind and generous and want to help each other and aren't trying to oppress each other, you will also find plenty of evidence for that as well. So it's important to recognize that to some degree, we all exist in an objective reality, but we all have our own subjective reality in how we interpret the world. And that's why it's so important to build a strong and also a positive mindset, because that just emanates and it leads to far more success, and it also leads to better health and relationships with other people. Nobody wants to be around someone who's just being negative all the time and is seeing the worst case scenario and everything. You want to be around people who have a solution for every problem rather than a problem for every solution. Point number 20 is that resentment is dangerous. Again, life is complicated and human relationships can be difficult. There are many situations that can cause you to feel and to harbor resentment for other people, or even for life itself. And when people get in that state, it's a really dark and nasty place to be in. If you're someone who holds grudges, or you're harboring resentment or feelings of vengeance towards other people, I'd strongly recommend that you nip that in the bud, that you stop that as soon as you're feeling it building up. Because what can happen is those feelings build up over the course of time. It can be with friends, it can be with family members, it can be with strangers, it can be with many different things. But when people get in this mentality and this feeling of having a lot of resentment, it always leads towards destructive activity. And so that's something that I strongly would advise you to be cautious of. Point number 21, and this is a very important one, especially for students. And this is to recognize that excellent communicators are actually rare. If there's a piece of advice that I could strongly give you for your future career and whatever it is you do, and it doesn't matter what you go on to do, but if you can develop excellent communication skills, if you can become very good at reading, very good at writing, very good at speaking, and very good at listening, listening is very underrated, then you can go on and be very powerful in whatever it is that you want to do. It doesn't matter what the future occupation is, you're going to need to communicate with other people. And if you are excellent at communicating with other people, at listening to them, at understanding them, and communicating your own ideas, then for sure you're going to go on and achieve a lot of greatness. Point number 22 is similar to my very first point that I made, but this is to recognize that the choices, the decisions, and the habits that you have over the next 15 years, the choices that you make over the next 15 years are going to greatly determine how easy or difficult the rest of your life is going to be for you. A lot of people, especially in their 20s, but also teenagers, ask me for advice on what they can do to be successful, say, in their 30s or in their 40s. And it's important to recognize that right now you're planting all the seeds for that. The way that you are treating your studies and your education, as I said before, the way you're treating your own health and your own body, the mindset that you're developing, the habits you're developing, all of these things are going to have an impact in the future. And again, I think it's important to reinforce this point because I know for sure when I was a teenager, I wasn't necessarily, I was a relatively sensible teenager, but I know for sure I didn't really recognize just how much the things I was doing at that time were going to go on and have an impact in my 20s, in my 30s, and so on. There are certain things that you can do that are, for example, so negative and so destructive that they actually essentially destroy the rest of somebody's life, right? If a young person goes out and commits some awful crime or gets involved in some nonsense that harms other people or something like that, it's very possible that by the age of 20, you've already made a decision that's so catastrophic that the rest of your life is now permanently affected. And it's very important to avoid those type of catastrophic errors, and also very important to make the positive decisions, have the positive habits and the positive mindset that will allow you to be successful in the future, because that's what we all want. Okay, we're on point number 23. Point 23 is to compare yourself to your previous self. not to people who are many, many years or even decades ahead of you in terms of experience, in terms of time, in terms of all of that. I can't remember whose quote it is, but it's been said that comparison is the thief of joy. And there's a lot of truth to that, right? It's best for you to compete with yourself in whatever it is that you're doing. Look at where you were a year ago, look at where you were 6 months ago, 5 years ago, whatever time scale it is, and you want to see that you are getting better. There's no point in comparing yourself to someone who's 10 years older than you, or 20 years older than you, 30 years, or someone who's just been doing whatever it is that you're working on for a much, much longer time. If you're trying to learn a foreign language and you're directly comparing yourself after 1 month of learning to someone who's been speaking the language their entire life, then you're going to get disheartened, right? It's good to take motivation and inspiration for that person and from that person and view it as a standard, but you don't want to be comparing yourself directly to them. However, you want to continue learning for another year, and then you can look back on where you were a year ago, and you'll be encouraged by the progress that you're making. So be careful of who you compare yourself to, and it's best to compete against yourself in that regard. Point number 24, and this is actually, I think all of these points are important, but I think this one is one to underline. And this is to be careful to not judge entire groups of people based on the actions of a small number. This is something that human beings are very prone to, and it causes a lot of problems around the world, and it's caused a lot of problems all throughout history. There are many ways that you can categorize and you can divide and you can separate human beings, but if you just have, say, a negative experience with a person from a certain place or demographic or who has certain qualities, and then you use that to paint a very broad brush about all of those people, then it's always going to be accurate, and it's also just the wrong thing to do. This is where a lot of genuine bigotry and hatred in the world actually stems from. It stems from judging entire groups based on a very, very small number of individuals, or even just ignorance or stereotypes. So that's something to always be on guard for and to speak up against when you see. Point number 25. And this is simply that men and women, boys and girls, we are different. We have a lot of similarities and we have some differences. Now, this is not something that is, this is not just something that is okay, but actually it's something that is good. It's something that's inherent and important and always has been to our entire human species. I don't know what it's like here, but I know certainly in my home country of the UK and in places like the US, but all across the West, there's this increasing movement to deny acknowledging any differences that may exist between men and women. And this is leading to a lot of problems, a lot of misery, a lot of destruction, breaking down a lot of families, a lot of relationships. And so I simply want to encourage everyone, whether you're a young man, you're a young woman, to embrace who you are, recognize who you are, and recognize that men and women, yes, we are equal in a sense, but we are also different, and those differences are not by accident, and those differences are actually good. That's something that's very positive for our society as a whole. Okay, we've got 10 more points to go. I want to make sure I leave a little bit of time for a Q&A, so I'm going to get through these next ones quite quickly. Point number 26 is to recognize that intelligence, wisdom, and education are all different things. It's possible to be educated, but not wise. It's possible to be wise, although not having lots of formal education. I would argue that wisdom is your ability to use that knowledge in the real world in a practical sense and to have that level of insight. Education is simply, I think we all know what education is, that's being able to, that's having gone through a certain process to acquire the information. And then intelligence is also about how we use it and how quickly we can process it. Point number 27 is to recognize that courage and cowardice are both habits. They are not simply traits, but they are also habits. The best way to become courageous is to develop a habit of courage. When you have a fork in the road in your life, when you have a position where you can opt for a cowardly route, or you can opt for the one that is more courageous. I encourage you to choose the one that is courageous, because the more often you do that, the more you will set the pattern and the habit in your life for choosing that option, and it's going to become easier to do in the future. If you always take the easy route out of everything and you choose the route of cowardice, then that is something that gets reinforced, and when the time comes to have some courage, you may find that you haven't worked on that muscle enough in order to actually use it and for it to be strong. So I want you to recognize that courage and cowardice are both habits, and you should choose courage. Point number 28 is to understand that traveling is valuable and worthwhile. And it's difficult to fully understand why it's so important until you do it. Now, I hope that you will all have the opportunity to travel both within and outside of the country. There are about 200 different nations in this world, and you don't need to go and see all of them, and it's probably not possible to visit every town and city, even over the course of an entire lifetime. But what traveling does is it does expand your mind. It teaches you about other people. It teaches you to understand and be more accepting and more empathetic towards other types of people and other cultures. And it also just develops your own self personally. Whatever place somebody grows up and lives in, that tends to become their default. That tends to be the lens through which they view the entire world. And oftentimes that can lead to some inaccurate conclusions. And it can also lead to a lack of perspective and gratitude in certain situations, depending on where the person is. So when you get the opportunity, if you get the opportunity, I encourage you all to travel and see as much as you are able to, and interact with as many people as you're able to. Point number 29 is to avoid vices. Vices are things that are going to harm you mentally, physically, and spiritually. There are many millions of people in this world, perhaps even over 1 billion, who engage in all sorts of vices and get caught up in things and get addicted to all sorts of things that damage them and hurt their friends, hurt their family, hurt their community. So again, addressing young people here, I would strongly caution you against engaging in those things. It's self-destructive, and it's destructive for other people as well. And once people are caught up in it, it can be very difficult to get out of. Point number 30 is that old ideas are not always bad, and new ideas are not always good. It's good to share ideas. It's good to engage in new ideas and to think about them. But I think there can be a tendency for people to want to throw away an old idea simply because it's old. And there can also be a desire to embrace a new idea simply because it is new. And I think rather than thinking about whether an idea is old or new, we should be thinking about whether or not it is something that actually does good. And if it's a good idea, if it's something that makes sense, if it's something that's pro-social, if it's something that's good for the individual, and if it's something that's overall good for society. Don't be caught up in a shiny thing syndrome and thinking that every idea that's new is always good. And don't be so cautious to throw the baby out with the bathwater, as they say, in wanting to reject everything simply because it's existed for a long time. There could be a very good reason why it's existed for a long time. Point number 31 is simply that exceptions exist for everything. Whatever situation we're talking about, whatever idea, whatever it is in life, there are always going to be exceptions. I don't want to dwell on that point too much, but use that one as you wish. Point number 32 is to take pride in your appearance, because people are going to judge you on it to some degree, whether or not you feel they should. That's just how human beings are. I'm seeing a lot of very, very sharp-dressed people here today. Doesn't look like anyone needs any advice on this one, but look after yourself. Look after your appearance. Groom well, dress well, all of that. It's going to serve you very well throughout the course of your life. Point number 33 is that politeness and kindness will take you much further than rudeness and cruelty. I've heard many people say that to get ahead in this world, you have to be cutthroat, or you have to be mean, or, you know, nice guys finish last, you have to be a jerk, this and this. There's all these sort of ideas that float around out there. And they're simply not true. If you are kind and you are polite towards everybody that you meet, no matter their age, no matter their position, no matter their status, no matter whether they're someone who in the immediate sense can help you or not. If you are simply kind and polite to other people, then that can go very, very far. I would certainly say in my own life, in my own career, that is something that has been able to help me massively. Simply treating other human beings with dignity and with kindness. People are reciprocal. If you are kind and you are polite towards other people, you should do it anyway, but it's also going to come back towards you in many ways. If you are mean and you are rude and you are nasty to people, it's going to encourage them to treat you in the same way. But if you treat people with kindness and respect and you are polite to everyone you come across, then that will reflect back towards you the vast, vast, vast majority of the time. Point number 34, I'm not going to belabor this one because I've already discussed it, but this is that you should exercise daily. If you're a young person, if you're an older person, whoever you are, whatever age you are, it's important to exercise every day. Exercise both your mind and your brain daily. The human body is designed to move, and it has huge numbers of benefits, and so it's very important to gain that habit early. Point number 35, and this is to not pick between working hard and working smart, but do both. A lot of times people say, should you work hard or should you work smart? And I'll tell you, if you work hard and you work smart, then you'll beat the person who is only working hard or only working smart. So I recommend that you do both. And lesson number 36, I want to make sure I have time for the Q&A at the end. Make sure you have your questions ready. Number 36 is simply to be humble, because you stop learning once you think that you know everything. Simply be humble, be open, and you're going to learn and you're going to be able to succeed. I think what is a far greater impediment and barrier to success, it's not actually, I don't think it's laziness. I actually think it is arrogance. I think arrogance and pride are much greater barriers to success than laziness is, in fact. Because if you think that you have nothing more to learn, if you think that you already know everything, if you think there's nothing anybody can tell you that's going to help you to improve or to become better, then you become stagnant, because there's no reason to improve and there's no reason to learn if you think you already know everything. And as we've already covered, there's nobody who knows everything, so we should always stay humble. We should be confident in our abilities that we have, but we should also be humble. We should be willing to say, I don't know. And these are 36 of the most important lessons that I've learned in the 36 years of my life thus far. And I hope that has been valuable for you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm now going to open the floor. I think we've got about 10 minutes until the next session. So if anyone has any questions for me about anything that I've talked about, or even anything outside of it, then feel free. I don't know if there's a, okay, you've got a microphone at the back there. Yeah, put a hand up if you have a question. No need to be shy.
Good morning. My name is Teggy. My question is, what is a trait or what is a characteristic that you can tell us young people or even older people that you used that actually worked in your life and brought you to where you are? What is something that would always, what's the word? What's a basically trait or thing that would bring you to your successful place?
Yeah, it's a good question. There are a lot of them. If I could say one that I think is certainly one of the most important, it would be perseverance. Perseverance. Being able to stick with something even when it gets difficult, even when it feels like you're not making progress, even when it feels like, I mean, if you think of it, you can gain a lot of success and you can often win in things simply by continuing on when most people would give up. If you imagine if you were running a marathon race, 26 miles, as long as you keep going, you're going to make it to the end. Some people may run a little bit faster, some people may run a little bit slower, But as long as you keep on going, then you're going to get to the destination. And the truth is that with anything that is worth, pretty much anything that's worth achieving in this life is difficult. It's not easy. And certain levels of success are relatively rare because it's hard. It's easier not to do something that's hard than to do it, let alone to continue doing it when it keeps knocking you down and beating you down. I mean, I'll be very honest with you. I mean, in my own life, so with my independent music career and everything else that I've gone on to do since then, I've been a full-time creator and entrepreneur since 2011. And it wasn't until 2019 that things really started to grow and accelerate for me. So I had an 8-year period where I was having some small successes and I was able to keep myself afloat, but I had to go through a very long process and a lot of difficulties and a lot of rejection just to get to a point where things really started to grow and accelerate. So in the past few years, I've been able to make a lot more progress in many ways, at least in a way that's obvious, than in all that previous time. So I would say perseverance. You really have to stick it out, and when you really want to give up, that's the time when it's most important not to. And it's very hard to do, but that's a massive key quality there.
Good morning. Thank you for a very vibrant exhortation for the youth and the upcoming people that are expecting to learn mentorship from people that have already gone ahead of them. I want to ask, in a nutshell, how to let the young people know how success doesn't just happen overnight, because the way other people have gone through process of success, the young people want to get it immediately. Yeah, I mean, they don't want to wait. They don't want to follow through the process. They just think that things just happen. Once you are educated, once you have skills, you can just make it. So how do you want to help them to put this in perspective, how they have to build molds to help them to achieve certain level and how to sustain it? Because it's not getting money, but what do you do with the money that you have? So I want you to iterate that and help them to understand how they'll be able to manage that process and then sustain what you have to make it useful for you. Because some success are destructive. If you're not ready for something and you just get it, you don't value it, and you don't know what you do with it, that will bring productivity out of it. So it could make you stagnant. It could also kill the vision, and it could make you docile. So just throw more lights how they can use that to navigate what they have and what they'll use to take them to the next level where they are going. Thank you.
Yeah, I got it. That's a good question. I think it's really important to recognize that the process is arguably more important than the outcome. We always want to focus on the outcome in whatever it is. It doesn't matter if this is someone beginning an exercise regimen and they're trying to build muscle, or they're trying to lose a certain amount of weight, or someone is trying to hit a certain career target, make a certain amount of money, hit a certain level with their business. Whatever it is, the human brain, we naturally always focus on the outcome, because the outcome is what you see. If you see someone who has achieved some level of success in any arena of life, you see them in the here and the now, and you just see the outcome. But if you talk to that person, if you learn about that person, you will see that there is a huge process behind it. Any person who is successful in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, however old, they have decades, usually multiple decades of process, right? Because you can't have the outcome without the process. And there can be times where the process doesn't feel fun, right? Where you get discouraged, where it seems like you're just banging your head against the wall, you're not moving forward. But you have to learn to enjoy the process. I think if you can learn to enjoy the process and enjoy the journey, then you won't be discouraged. And also when you reach certain milestones of success, you will appreciate them more. And when you appreciate things, you don't squander them. If you appreciate something and it's taken you a long time and a lot of effort to get there and to achieve it, then you're going to be able to maintain it because you're not going to think that, oh, it came so easy, so let me just waste this. So I think that would be my best answer to that.
Okay. Two questions, please. Over here.
Sure.
First question for the students. I can see there are students here, and if there is anything that college students face is between making a choice between what they actually want to do with their lives and what their parents want them to do. So I would like you to help them create that balance between what their parents actually want them to do and what they actually want to do with their lives. That's the first question.
Okay, I'll answer that one first.
Okay.
That's a difficult one because everyone's relationship with their parents and their families are very different. I know that there can be parents who are very hardline and strict about what they want their children to do, whereas there are others who are more open-minded and supportive of different ideas. I think that as you get older, the truth is that once you become an adult, you ultimately, no matter, your life is ultimately in your hands. It's going to be your life. So I think finding the balance there is to recognize that your parents want the best for you, okay? So I think it's important to recognize that that desire that a parent might have for their child, their son or their daughter to be a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer, for example, that comes from a good place because those are good and stable careers and they will continue to be, and they certainly have been in previous generations. That doesn't mean that, so it's coming from a place of good. I think it's very important to recognize that. With that said, I think it also needs to be balanced from both the parental side and the side of the child in question, that ultimately their life is their life. I don't think it's right for a parent to be so dogmatic that they want to completely control all their child's decision making as they're going into adulthood and everything like that, right? As a child gets older, you have to relinquish some of that, right? As a you know, if you've got a 5-year-old, a 5-year-old shouldn't be making most decisions about their life, right? Because, but once that person is, you know, 16, 17, 18, going into their 20s, then some of that control, I'm not speaking from experience here. I'm just imagining what it must be like to be a parent who's got a teenager or a young adult. And as time goes on, you have to recognize that, okay, this person is this is their own individual. They're going to be making their own choices. If they've been instilled, I think, with the correct values and the right ideas, then they'll go on and they'll make the right choices. And I think also if you support them, you know, again, assuming they're not engaging in something that's obviously destructive here, then if you support that person, then they will do you proud, and they'll be happier, and they won't harbor this type of resentment. I talked about resentment before, and I think one of the worst types of resentment that can exist is within families or within a parent, within parents, between parents and children. So, yeah, that's my idea on that one. It's certainly easier for some people in some situations. For other people, it's going to be more difficult just depending on what those dynamics are. But I think if you can build on trust, respect, and goodwill, then even when it's difficult, ultimately you can reach a position where that understanding is met.
Okay, thank you very much. To my second question, I'm trying to picture you singing. So what's the story behind you being a musician, a public speaker, an entrepreneur? You know, what's the story? Which one came first? How were you able to navigate from one aspect of your life to the other without, I mean, what was the story like?
Yeah, sure. So it started with the music. So I actually studied computer science at Oxford University. And when I was in my first year of university, when I was 18, I started doing music just as a hobby. And then 1 year later, when I was 19, I released my first album, which was called Commercial Underground. I released that when I was in my second year of university. So that is how my music career began. It just started as a hobby, and then I started to take it more and more seriously, and I started releasing music and doing live performances around the city. This is a very abbreviated version of it. And then over the course of time, it became, like I said, it became a full-time career in 2011. From 2011 to 2018, I was really just doing my music. Anyone who knew me just through my music. And then in 2019, I wrote and released my first book. I started my podcast. I started to become better known and started to get invited to do speeches and events in different cities and different countries. And fast forward to today, and here we are. That's the short form.
You want us to sing?
Pardon?
Do you still want to sing?
To sing?
Yeah.
Today?
Yeah.
Oh, no, not right now. Okay. There was a man in the corner there who I know he looked like he had a burning question. If there's 1 minute for me to answer it very quickly, I'd love to, because I know he was trying to get my attention.
Good morning. My question is, how can you be able to combine like 3 careers together, like politics, entrepreneurship, and business? How can you be able to combine the 3 of them together? Because in our current status now in the country, people will be like, you'll be trying to do things. People will be like, what are you doing? We are not seeing anything, and you are doing this, doing that. Meanwhile, those things are your passion, something you feel like that it will be able to impact into the society. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Well, for me, it's not 3. I have at least 5 main careers, and whether or not people understand it doesn't really matter. If you are able to do multiple things and you want to, and you can be successful in different areas, then there's no reason why you should limit yourself to only one. There are many people in this world who do a lot of different things, and don't let someone else not understanding it stop you if that's what you want to do. Okay, I know we're coming to the end of this session, so thank you all very much. You've been an amazing crowd. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for listening.
One question, Zubi.
Okay.
So first of all, thanks for coming, right? It's been
Thanks
lovely
for inviting
having
me.
you. Thanks. One of the schools had a breakdown on the way here, so they're just arriving. I just wondering if you could please just do like a 2-minute overview of what you just said, right? And just finally, how do you deal with rejection and disappointment in your life? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so let me answer the second question first. How do you deal with rejection and disappointment? I think the best way to deal with rejection and disappointment is to understand that it's part of the process. You should expect it. In whatever it is that you are doing, you're most likely going to hear no more than you're going to hear yes. You're going to be ignored more than people are going to pay attention to you. A key part of my story, which I actually skipped over just for the sake of time, is that the way I really built up my music career and my initial audience was by selling my CDs on the street. I used to just travel all around the UK and go to different city centers and spend all day talking to strangers by the hundreds, by the thousands, and selling my CDs on the street. I actually managed to sell over 30,000 copies of my album hand to hand just by talking to people. Okay? And thank you. And to sell 30,000 albums, do you know how many people said no? So I faced hundreds of thousands, literally hundreds of thousands of times I heard no, or I'm not interested, or was just straight up ignored. And once you've been through that sort of crucible, that sort of process, you learn actually that every no brings you closer to a yes. If you're going to be selling something or promoting something, most people are going to say no, or most people are going to ignore you, but the more no's you get, the more yeses you're going to get. If you imagine you're playing a sport, you're playing football, you're playing basketball, whatever it is, you're going to miss more shots than you're going to score. But if you don't shoot, if you refuse to shoot because you're afraid to miss the goal, then you're never going to get any points on the board. So I recommend to that's the best way to think of it in your mind. And what was the first question there? Just a recap. Okay. Yeah, so for anyone who's just entered, my name is Zubi. Nice to meet you all. I've just done a talk called 36 Lessons from 36 Years, where I've just been giving everyone some life advice on various things that can help them. I think what I can do, maybe, James, maybe I can share the points and they can be distributed to the attendees. So if you weren't able to listen to the speech or you came in halfway through, then you can get a little recap of everything I talked about. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Sing. I'm actually a rapper, not a singer. You don't want to hear me. You don't want to hear me sing. Rap. Oh wow. Okay. Something fast or something slow? Oh, okay. Okay, let me think of something. I want 1 billion fans, so I need 1 million first. I'ma gain another 1,000 just off the sickness of this verse. Even when I'm smiling sweetly, look at Zuby as a threat, or you'll get on before you see me like a noob in FPS. No button combination lets you cheat the game of life. Rappers looking in my pad, they think I'm cheating on the mic. But this girl's my one and only, and she never leaves me lonely. If I wanna beat it down, she's always waiting to bestow me. I spread the love like bigamy, so passionate with metrics. So bars cannot belittle me, their style is anorexic. That means they think they're big, I hear them talking all aggressive, but they bark and never bite, and so their mark is unimpressive. My vision's not a dream, I'm motivated to achieve it. You want food for thought, and I'm providing it, so eat it. I wrote this in my sleep, I mean it, no exaggeration. Even scheming when I'm dreaming, I don't waste imagination. Show love when I come through, I get respect cause I'm Millie. So the ladies love me too, like they love Sex in the City. They say I'm blessed and I'm silly, but don't object cause I'm pretty. And always say I'm kinda cocky, but they know I'm kinda witty. And you know when mob committee, it's just me, myself, and I. 3 of my favorite rappers and a little bit of rhymes. I got a lot of hustle, but ain't got a lot of time. Money's got a lot of muscle, so it's all about the grind. I take a different policy, I'll turn in pen and prophecy. My brilliance is vivid, but it's rivaled by my modesty. Honestly, I think I'm like the hottest walking property, but realized as a teen that there's no dream guarantee. So honestly, I started on my music hustle properly, and still I had the brains to get an Oxford degree. So think before you talk to me, you're tripping if you walk to me. I'm moving twice as fast like rolling doubles in Monopoly.
Hey, thank you so much, Zubi. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you guys, thank you.
Yeah, nice having you here. Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated. The next session is Girls in STEM, and the moderator will be making introductions shortly.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So nice to be moderating this section. I am Faith Iroham, the Chief Executive and the Managing Director of GovEnergy. So I would like to call my panelists up to the stage. They've been women in the industry. They've been making waves for over years in the industry. So I have the first person, Ms. Basi Aide. Ms. Basi Aide is the CEO of N.I.E.S. Marine. And I have Telma Chukwu. Telma Chukwu is the CEO of Blé Global Resources. I also have Lydia, Engineer Lydia. She is the BP Marine. She's the regional engineer for BP Marine for Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Turkey. She'll be speaking virtual. Lydia, are you there? Please unmute her.
Engineering Authority. I work for BP PLC. Yes.
You're welcome to the section.
Thank you.
So we also have 2 of our girls in STEM. Elizabeth Abraham from BRITAC School, Abuja. And also we have Uzo Princess from BRITAC, from Premier Academy, Abuja. Please come up. Please clap for them. So once again, good morning, everybody. We don't really have much time. We have only 1 hour for this section, and we will try as much as possible to summarize our discussion, questions, answers, and comments within 1 hour. Permit me to stand on existing protocols. We don't have much time. I would have loved my women to introduce themselves, but we don't have that time now. So we'll go straight to the business of the day. This section, we are going to be having a conversation around girls in STEM. We have a topic of discussion, which is engaging with future female STEMers. We've been on this conversation for over years, and we are still pushing it. It's an extra blessing to be moderating this section because of the great and developing minds we have among us, the students we have here. So we advise you to pay attention. It will be in a very interactive section, and we advise you to pay attention, get your questions and comments. We'll take it accordingly. So we'll kickstart. I would like to start with Basiade. Ms. Basiade. Obviously, the energy industry is fast developing across streams. We have the oil, we have gas, we have power, we have renewable, and other professional activities going on in the industry. And we know for over decades we've been on this issue of gender equity, where we've actively pushed for gender diversity across our professional environment. We've been pushing for women inclusion. Funny enough, we've seen, amazingly, we've seen a little bit of improvement in that regard because women are becoming company CEOs among the IOCs, international oil companies, across the Nigerian companies as well. Outside the oil industry, outside the energy industry, we have female CEOs, and we also have female company founders. We have some of us here. We have female technical engineers, lead engineers in technical specialized areas. We also have advanced senior geoscientists. We have female. I have some of them working with me. So last month, we celebrated our International Women's Month. We got different reports from different agencies. We have the International Energy Agency gave us 22% of female workforce across the Nigerian energy industry. And on top of that, we have only 12% in management position. UNESCO further gave us 32% of female involvement across globe. They also gave us, UNESCO gave us reports about 28% of female involvement across sub-African countries. Here in Nigeria, we have the Financial Institution Training Center. They gave us 22% of girls in STEM across Nigerian universities. We are saying is a problem, and we really need to solve that. That is why we want to have this conversation now. We'll try as much as possible to be explicit and make our thinking visible so we'll all flow along. So like I said, I'll start with you, Basi. Basi, following the recent drop-off in statistics of girls in STEM, we know that we are still struggling to get female innovators to come forward, and we say that is a problem. So under 10 minutes, what is your view? What do you think we can do differently to get more girls into STEM? You just have 10 minutes for that. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning. Can everyone? Okay, good. Right. So good morning, everyone, and it's really nice to be here with all of you. And thanks for attending this, especially the girls and boys from secondary school. It's really nice that you took out time from school to be present, and I think you're doing something in the right direction, reminding me of myself when I was in high school. And I want to make this very personal to you so that you can relate to everything I'm saying, okay? So Faith has done a fantastic job in telling us the statistics of where we're at in terms of STEM. So STEM is science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Basically the core fields in the oil and gas industry, aside other things, but there's other sectors like downstream, upstream, midstream, which involves logistics, marine, land transportation, security. It all makes up the whole value chain of what we have in the oil and gas industry. One thing I want to focus on is basically how our family unit has obviously influenced what we have in the representation of women versus boys in the homes. And I want to make this very interactive. So with the girls and boys, I just want to put a question out to you. How many of you have brothers and sisters? Or I just want to see if you can just put your hands up if you have a brother or a sister. Good. And in your households, how many of the boys do the chores at home? How many people go into the kitchen, cook a meal, or actually sweep the house? If you're a boy and you're cooking meals or sweeping the house, please raise your hand up. Good, good. So we have 2 boys here that are basically active. And the other boys, are you cooking meals or doing anything at home in terms of chores? Okay. It doesn't mean anything. I'm just trying to get us to see exactly what the foundation has done to us. So out of the boys here, we have about 2 boys who are actively involved in doing stuff at home. So most times the girls. Now, do you feel, so this is a question for the girls here. Do you feel sometimes that you have to do the chores at home or you have to be involved in something? The girls. Good, good. Good. And I think I want all of you to just give yourselves a round of applause at this point. Just give yourself a round of applause. The reason why I did this is because if you see some of the responses that we're getting from the girls is, I don't feel I have to go into the kitchen and do something. I feel like I can do something else, correct? I saw a young lady come in here with a device. Was that you? So you can see that our next generation of upcoming women are changing, which is absolutely fantastic. Meaning that some of our parents have recognized the fact that STEM is not just a male-dominated industry, it's also the involvement of women as well. Now, I want to put this back a little bit personal to you. Now, I want to talk to you about how can you actually, transform your career in this field. So I want to talk to you about the growth mindset, the importance of actually having an idea of what you want to do and working towards it, meaning having a vision. Having something that you want. I see people holding some devices with them. Can you tell me what that is? Yeah. Sorry, I want this to be very interactive.
This is a digital display charger.
Okay. And did you buy that or?
No.
Did you make it?
No.
Okay, what is it used for?
It's for empowering devices.
Okay, good. So why have you brought it here with you today? Just
because we're going to be using it in our project.
Good. Okay, you see, really good. So what I want to talk to you about is on just growth mindset, and I want to make this very personal. I happened to finish school, so I was in secondary school around your age, around 15, 16. But one thing that kept me grounded is having an idea of where I'm going in life and working towards it. So when I said to you earlier on that you remind me of myself when I was 16, 17, I was attending N.I.E.S conferences, I was attending some energy conferences just to put myself on the right path of growth, right? And I just wanted to talk about the role of technology today because now we've seen a lot of internet penetration in Nigeria. It used to be about 22% over 10 years ago. Today is about 40.27% and is projected to reach about 48% by the year 2027. So we can see the importance of integrating technology. And why I asked the question about how many people are doing this or doing that is just also to relay the fact that technology is becoming important and you're also future leaders of tomorrow and also innovators. Innovators, it's very important. And for you to innovate things, you need to be creative. You have to have a positive mindset. You need to surround yourself with people that you see yourself like, people that you want to become. And I know that we hear people talk about Gen Z. Do you hear that sometimes? Yeah? We talk about Gen Z. We talk about Gen Zs a lot. We talk about the importance of AI, importance of artificial intelligence. Now, there was a recent study that was carried out to how technology might also affect the workforce and the importance of people also going outside to get different types of skill sets. So not only just focusing on what you're being taught in school, but actually taking the time to step out of the box and think about what you can do to improve your own skills. And also looking around you to look at what problems can I solve? How can I, make my time very useful? So that comes to purpose. So again, I would ask you, does any one of you here have an idea of what your purpose is? If you do, you can take the mic and talk to me about it. Don't be shy. She does. She does. Let's hear from her. Sorry, introduce yourself.
My name is Ojako Ogechi from Premier Academy.
Can you stand up so we can see you?
I want to be a software engineer
Great. So why do you want to be a software engineer?
because when I was younger, I used to watch and I read a book, Emily the Key of Code. It was about a girl that used to code, and she coded a game, and she coded something that could sing. So that's why I want to be a software engineer.
Fantastic, fantastic. Can we give her a round of applause, encouraging her? Thank you. So let me tell you a story about myself, okay? Can you hear me? Okay, yeah. So let me tell you a story about myself. When I started my company, right, I used to work in the oil and gas industry. I started my career about 2012, 2013, and I worked until about 2021 when I decided that I was going to take the bold step to forge onto the journey of entrepreneurship. And the reason why I forged onto entrepreneurship was that my purpose, my deep purpose, I was connecting with my purpose of, okay, I want to add value in the supply chain industry in the oil and gas space, right? I want to be able to do things differently. I want to do things in my own unique way. I want to add a quota to development. I want to make sure that I have people that I'm also mentoring that are looking up to me, or I think looking at me like, hey, if she can do it, then definitely I can do it. Now, I'm not very old. I'm not up to 35, just so you know. I'm very young, and I'm the definition of if I can do it, then there's nothing stopping you from making sure that you can do it. So the last thing I want to say to you is that you need to make sure that whenever you identify your purpose, you must make sure that you understand the deep reasoning why you have that purpose and what you're trying to do with your life. And you actively work towards it, meaning the necessary skills, the necessary mentorship if needed, the necessary support, and most importantly, believing in yourself and having that growth mindset. So Faith, I'm going to leave it here at this point, and if there's any questions, I will come back to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Basi, for that. That's a major key nugget. Lydia, are you there? Please, the technical team. Lydia, if you're there, please, can you please make a comment on Basi's presentation, please? You know, you have, I like the part she mentions about innovation, taking yourself to the next level. And you've had several years of experience with the STEM. If you're there, please make a comment. Under 2 minutes, please.
Faith, I lost connection. Could you repeat what you just said there?
Okay, Basi just finished speaking, and she talked more about innovation. I don't know if you were there. Did you hear her speak? Since you have...
I heard some of what she said. Yes, I did.
Okay, please,
Thank
we just want a 30-second comment from you. You know, you've been in STEM for over years now, and you can really throw more light on that. 30 seconds, please.
Okay, in terms of innovation comes from creative thinking and mindset. And we know that the world is transforming. We have technology that exists today that even exists when we were in school. And to the young audience we have in the room, it's great to have you here. I just want you all to know that your vision and passion, as Basia said, will take you anywhere. And I love the young lady who talked about what she watched as a child, how it has developed her thinking to want to become a software engineer. And that's what you need, is continue to feed yourself with the right level of information that will stimulate your creative juices. The world is changing from employers granting you a job, and very soon we'll be moving into a world where entrepreneurs will be more appreciated, which we know that the local content is encouraging. A lot of us on these calls, like you've heard Basi said, are running our own businesses. And I want you to leverage on that. Be open-minded, be creative, and continue to thirst and hunger for knowledge and connect with the wider world on what's changing.
Thank you very much, Lydia. Thank you. That was so fantastic. So the next question will come to you, Ms. Thelma. We want to ensure positive outcome from this conversation. That's why we want to make it as robust as possible to get out point data that we'll be working with to ensure more girls in STEM. That is the essence of this discussion. So, Thelma, under 10 minutes, could you please tell us your view, what we can do to ensure that this concurrent drop-off in statistics, we don't keep experiencing that going forward?
Hi, okay, stand on existing protocols. My name is Thelma. I run my own oil and gas engineering firm, and we service IOCs. Like Basi literally had all my points that I was going to say, but I think there are three key things that matter in order to make sure that these statistics don't drop, and that's basically representation. I don't know about, I like her story about how she wanted to, to be a software engineer. Yeah, when I was younger, we didn't have a lot of, we weren't really watching a lot of cartoons that had women in STEM. A lot of the cartoons we grew up watching were mainly like boys. And also when I was younger as well, in the house, you grow up and then all of a sudden you have these ideologies ingrained in you. What do I mean by that? You grow up with, I grew up with three girls. We're four girls, so I don't even have a brother. So I guess I didn't really have that bias. But you have I have friends that grew up with boys, and I remember then they used to be very upset because when it comes to cooking, their mom would literally drag them to the kitchen, and then the boys would be made to do all the hands-on work with their dads. So all of a sudden, they grew up literally with this belief that they weren't meant to be in STEM, and it was meant for the boys. So I feel like we need to change that narrative, and it starts from the homes. So like your fathers, your mothers, your aunties, the teachers in schools. And we also need to start portraying role models, like the female role models. Because there are a lot of female doing amazing stuff in the industry. There are lots of black women doing a lot of things in the industry. I feel like we need to portray their stories more in schools and use them as examples. I also believe we need to start building social capital with young girls. What do I mean by social capital? Social capital basically focuses on things that are outside what you study. So you're looking at your support system. So your friends around you, I have a good sisterhood. I call them sisterhood because when I have issues, I have people that I can fall back to. And those are people that help me. So social capital is that, and also building your network, because you will need your network. It's it's not just school, it's not just like what you're studying, it's also about the network that you build along the line. What else? Probably advocacy. Already we're out here advocating for more women in the industry. I mean, all of us seated here, 3 of us, we are in a network called Women in Energy Network in Nigeria, and all we do is just advocate for more women in this space, because the truth is, there are not a lot of women in engineering, and that's what we're trying, that's the gap we're trying to bridge, yeah. So I feel like we need to start thinking, because even when you look at technology, right, for a sustainable future, technology is the way forward. And if you talk about AI, for example, you can have all men building the systems. You don't want robots thinking like just men. You want them to have like, a very diverse, will I call it program? Sorry, I'm not a software engineer, so I don't know what it's called. Probably like programming, yeah. So you need to bring more women in, just because you need to get that women perspective as well. So what would I say? Maybe mentorship, role models. Like everyone needs to have 1 or 2 role models that they look forward to. So I think these are the 3 things I'll talk about, like the representation, role model, building your social capital, and doing more programs around women in STEM. So like more excursions, more, yeah, I think that's what I'll just leave it at that for now.
Thank you very much, Thelma. Because of our time, we won't be having any extra comments. Okay, go ahead. Basi, go ahead.
Okay, so I see the boys are very quiet here. Very, very quiet. So let me ask the gentleman there, the one I'm looking at that's looking at me. Yes, you. I want you to just tell us what your fears are and what you would like to do. When, I wouldn't say in the future, because the future is now, but what would you like to do? Yes? So you can start by introducing yourself.
My name is Toby Babalola from Premier Academy, and in the future...
So let's start with your fears.
My fears are our technology ruining us. Our technology might become so advanced that they can cause problems for us, because sometimes they are good and they also have their bad. They also have their effects. Yeah. And if we're not careful, they may destroy us, because we may go beyond our limits and they can cause harm to us.
Good. And what would you like to do?
I'd like to create technology that is safe.
Good.
Something that will not harm us.
Okay, good. Can we give him a round of applause? Can we give Toby a round of applause? And Toby, yeah, you can sit down. Toby raises very valid points. I want to take this other gentleman in the front. This one too. Toby raises very valid points about how technology is important and how it's important for us to build safe technology. And I'll come to that when I hear from you. Okay? You can introduce yourself, tell us your fears, and tell us what you want to do.
Okay, my name is Alexander from Premier Academy. My general fears are I'll not be able to make something of myself in this world, something that can contribute to society. Those are my fears. And that I'll negatively impact everybody around me.
Okay.
So what I want to be in the future, I want to be an aerospace engineer.
Wow.
Because the idea of space has always interested me.
Wow.
Space.
Can we give him a round of applause, everyone? Yeah, okay. So just let me address those 2 fears, yeah? Starting from building safe technology. You raise very valid points about how technology can become so advanced and it might actually start impacting us. So it can impact our human capacity development. It can impact also the number of people that might be relevant in terms of work. Has anyone seen the movie Megan? Megan? Yeah, you saw it, right? So did you see how that technology transformed, right? So I agree with you, and you have very fantastic ideas of what you want to do, and also your fears are valid. And coming to you that spoke about your being afraid of not doing anything relevant to society, I want to say something to you. First of all, you need to believe in yourself, okay? Believe in yourself that you have the capacity and you can and you will do anything that you want to do. Let me tell you a personal thing. Every morning when I wake up, I get into the shower, and afterwards I look in the mirror and I have to tell myself, Basi, you're the best. Basi, you're going to make it. Basi, you can do it. Basi, you will do it. I have to talk to myself every morning. So the importance of those interactions with yourself, not anyone else, yourself, is very important. And also what you feed your mind. What you feed your mind, the kind of shows you watch, the kind of friends you have, the kind of words you use around people, the kind of words people use on you. Do you understand? You have to make sure that you don't let that affect the core of who you are. So what I want to say to you is believe in yourself, because you can and you will do great things, okay? All right? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Basi, and thank you to our dear students that spoke. So, Engineer Leader, if you're there, I think this question, I'll direct it to you. Because of your years of experience in STEM, and you are an engineer, we are saying that we all want to get to that C-suite level, executive level. We all want to get to that level of decision making, to turn into a decision maker. Engineer Leader, how do we encourage women and girls to navigate their career path without fears? In this hall, we are a bit diverse. We have men here too, and we have our young men, our students here. How do you think we can encourage our young people to navigate their career path? We want you to leverage your own experience and educate us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Faith, and you're doing a great job moderating us. I studied chemical engineering first degree. I left the university almost 23 years ago now, and in the thirst for knowledge and not to be irrelevant, I went back for a master's in petroleum engineering as well. Today, I run one of the largest regions for BP. BP is it's a British-owned, it's a British-driven company. It's global. Unfortunately, we don't have a footprint in Nigeria. And in that team, the production that we do from the region contributes profitably to 20%. Now, bear in mind, this is a region in this is a business in over 40 countries. And the region spans across 3 countries. So I thought I should let you understand that. And I'm also a Black woman working in a white male-dominated environment. This morning, I spent most of my morning in a room of 150 people, and I was the only Black, not only female, but the Black female representation in the room. So to answer your question, Faith, what has gotten me this far? I like what Toby and Alexander said. You have fears. Fear is good, and I'll tell you why. Your fear helps you to put a boundary around what is limiting you today. I will encourage each and every one of you students in front of me today. I was once like you. I went to MGGC Zaria, and I lived in Nigeria as well, so I wasn't born and bred in the UK. No, not at all. I like you, I also had visions, I had dreams, like Basi and Thelma had said, and I didn't let go of that purpose. I used to be shy, I hated public speaking, and today I'm talking to a room full of you. All that has come to play because, as Thelma and Basi rightly said, is I held on to my fears, but I used my fears as a stepping stone to what is possible. Like for Alexander that said, he has a fear that he won't be relevant. you need to understand why do you have that fear and what can you do differently. And Alexander, I applaud your courage. So it's great that you have this courage, and I want you to continue to use that fear and turn it into a strength. So that is something you need to do. One very important thing I want to share in the room, because we've got men, we've got women, we've got boys, girls, and even non-binary. The world is having people define themselves as being neither. Is for what makes you stand out from everybody else. When you enter a room, when you leave today, you've come to this event, the people you're going to interact with, what are they going to remember about you? So doing your homework and understanding why you're doing anything, saying anything, thinking anything is very, very important. What has helped over the years, and like I said, I have been breaking various glass ceilings. There was a time I was in a role that no other Black person has ever been in, and I think even the current role I'm doing, I'm the first Black individual to occupy it. Why am I sharing this again? Is because don't allow your limitations and your fears be the stumbling block of getting you ahead. Focus on your purpose, and more importantly, be humble enough to ask to be mentored by people who you see are doing well. I am happy to mentor any of you who would want to reach out to me. I mentor across the globe. It's something I enjoy doing. So seek and desire and look for role models. So my peers, Bassi and Thelma, had talked about it. Another very important thing that we need to think about is within our oil and energy industry in Nigeria, we need male allies. Allies who, when they sit around the boardroom, they're saying we need to recruit differently so that we can allow female representation around the board and around the table. So having deliberate male allies, because if it's us women who are just championing and trying to bring other women up, there's only how far we can go. But what we now need are male allies, be it in NNPC, be it in NPDC, be it in any of our energy sector. Even in our entrepreneurship, we need male allies, we need male mentors, we need people who are going to stand up and see this as an important agenda and table it to the right channels. Above all, we also need to create a flexible working environment. I still see sometimes our processes get in the way. When I ask people why, and I'm talking not just within Nigeria, because I'm in Nigeria in the diaspora, but I ask this question everywhere I go. Why is this process in place? Why are we doing this? And it will surprise you how many times I've heard people say, I don't know, this is just how we've done it for many years. That stifles your creativity and thinking. Be curious, be deliberate, be willing to do the extra that will make you extraordinary. Be willing to work hard. Your academics, absolutely be spot on with it, because that is one thing that will get you through the door. But the next thing that will sustain you as you get through the door is what you bring. What ideas do you bring? Continue to learn, continue to seek knowledge. Join a body of people that you know will encourage you. Never, ever look at yourself and say, I have all the answers, I know it all. As you see me, I'm joining people every day. I'm learning every day. I read an average of 2 books a month. I'm a mother of 3 kids. I'm in a dual career marriage. My husband is as busy as myself, but we make it work because I have an intent. So have the intention to continue to grow. And I encourage the Nigerian government, more especially, to please, 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 though the statistics that were shared today, whilst it shows progress, there's still work to do. So we are looking for advocates within our various energy sectors that will rise up and pull people up. And above all, one thing that we haven't talked about today is apprenticeship. I am encouraging small and medium scale energy companies in Nigeria to create apprentice opportunities for these our young minds to come and have a taste of what we do in engineering, to come and have a taste of what we do in science. And that just feeds and encourages their ambition. And that is how we can sustain the society that we seek and desire. And finally, I'm going to end on this note. As we get older, we must recognize that whatever we know can become obsolete. So we must seek to learn from the upcoming generation, feed on their enthusiasm, but don't throw away the experience that has been gathered over the years by those who are advancing in their careers. So I would like to end on that note, and Faith, and hand over back to you. I hope I've made a few points that my young minds in the room today can go away with. Our sponsors of this event can have left you with food for thought of how you can improve the representation of females so that we can be vocal role models and advocates for our generation and generation to come.
Thank you very much, Lydia. That was so fantastic. I like the fact that you mentioned fear. Fear is a good thing because fear is the starting point. If you're not afraid, that means you're not dreaming. So we are entering the main section where we'll have our questions and answers. Yeah, we want to engage our students. That's actually the reason for this meeting. We have Elizabeth Ibrahim. Elizabeth, do you want to tell us where you want to see yourself in the next 10 years? Would you like to tell us? Please.
Thank you. My name is Elizabeth Abraham Eju, and I'm from Bright Arc Schools, Abuja. So, question is where I'll see myself in the next 10 years. I'm not really going into engineering because I don't really have passion for it. But what I want to venture into is veterinary science, which consists of the ecosystem, climate change, and animals, which also is kind of like a part of engineering because crude oil is a natural resource, and then if it's not managed properly, it can kill our ecosystem. It's affecting the climate in Nigeria. There's oil spill, and I would actually like to work with the engineering sector to try and manage it, the human resource part, to try and manage that so that we won't kill our ecosystem, because there are rumors spreading that in the next 30 years, crude oil might finish in Nigeria. And even though that's not our only resource, that's one of the major resources bringing money into Nigeria in these present days. So we have to balance that with our ecosystem and our environment to make the place safe for humans and for other careers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. That was so fantastic. Congratulations. And I think it's a good thing to have both Elizabeth and Princess here. This is a bold step. And I encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. Princess, we would like to share your dream. We'd like you to share your dream with us. Where do you see yourself in the next 10 to 15 years?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Uzo Princess. I am a student of Premier Academy. In the next 10 to 15 years, I would like to be a doctor, to be honest. I'm very, very interested in everything regarding STEM. So eventually in life, after probably getting a degree, I would like to also go into different things like software, because I realized that I'm actually good at coding. So yes, thank you.
So Thelma, you can go ahead and make your comment. You have a comment to make?
Hello. Yeah. I was going to actually say what you just said. So I studied finance. I'm actually not. Okay. So I'm not like an engineer. my background is actually economics. I started my career in investment banking, and then I went into the stock exchange before I found myself in oil and gas. So you can do both, basically. I do both. I don't have any engineering experience. I hire engineers, but I'm not practically an engineer. I mean, in retrospect, I think I would have studied engineering because this is where I find myself. But I think when I was your age, I didn't even know what I wanted. So I'm actually glad that I'm seeing people that actually can say, in 10 years, I want to be this and this and that. Because in 10 years, trust me, I didn't even know what I wanted to do at all. So I think that's, and then with engineering, I was going to say as well, a lot of people think that STEM is about gender traits or gender-based traits, but it's not about that. It's about it's about hard work, it's about being resilient, it's about being diligent, because the truth is, I have a feeling that women are even more brilliant, than the men. I'm so sorry to say, but for me, because in my class, like all through university and secondary school and all of that, the women were at the top of the class. So it pains me to see when you come to a certain level and then you realize that women all of a sudden don't have the opportunity to go far because I mean, the industry is seen as a male dominated. So I just feel like we just need to encourage more girls to tell them that, see, this is not a gender-based, you don't need any gender-based traits, you just need to, you need to be hardworking, you need to be resilient, you need to be smart as well, because it's not just about book intelligence as well, it's about being street smart. So I think that's what I just want to leave it at, yeah.
Basi, please, go ahead with what you want to say.
Okay. Can you hear me? Yes, okay. So I'm really very interactive and engaging, and I just want to ask the lady down there, just the one right there, who, yes, you, with your hand on your chest, and all the ladies in that corner, I'm coming to you, and the lady down there, the one with the glasses. I want you to tell us who your role model is and why you chose that person as a role model. The lady, yes. The third one, yes. You can stand up, introduce yourself, and tell us. So introduce yourself and tell us who is your role model and why you chose the person as a role model.
Good day. My name is Emanuela Ofili from Brighter Schools. Well, for now, I don't have any specific role model, but generally.
You can mention anyone. It doesn't. Just anyone you look up to. Just any name.
I don't have one for now, but any woman in the tech industry doing things that women are not meant to do, are not supposed to be doing. Every woman that is breaking the barrier for me is a role model. I aspire to be like them, so that I can also break the gender barrier and do things that will make a difference.
All right, thank you. Can you pass it to your friend on the right side? The one with the glasses? Yes. And then we're coming to the one with her mobile phone.
Good day. My name is Promise Aipoasi Ogene. I am a student of Brighter Schools. And my role model are both my mom and my dad.
Fantastic. Why?
My mom was a girl that grew up in the village, and then her mom left her, my grandma now, abandoned her children. And then my mom was left in Benin City growing alone. She was a vendor. She wasn't able to write her WAEC, JAM, and ECHO. She went to school only for 3 years. 3 years of school, just 1, just 2, just 3. She managed to do SS1, but couldn't finish. So she strived really hard, met my dad. My dad helped her so much. They did a lot together. They were able to break a lot of barriers that kept them where they were to where they are now. Because my mom suffered a lot. She went to the UK, came back, was hit with a lot of racism, and she is still the owner of two very good hair salons in where I am now.
Fantastic.
So I really love the fact that she was able to do all that, and I Just she's my role model. So I look
Fantastic.
up to her.
Bless your mommy. And the other lady?
Good day, my name is Oshode Titilayomi
Yes.
from Brightac Schools. My role model is my dad. My dad is someone who came from practically nothing and has built himself to where he is today.
Fantastic. Thank you. And the lady just by the corner with the glasses, that's the last lady we'll take.
Good day, everyone. My name is Mira Samuel, a student from Brightac Schools. My role model is my mother. Basically, it was from most of my life, it was just me, my mom, and my sisters. And my mom started achieving a lot of things from when she was young. She bought her first car before she was 20 years old. So she's not really into the tech industry, but where she is now, what she studied, that's like public relations. She can work like anywhere, and I'm proud of what she has done and where she has.
Fantastic. Let's give a round of applause for the ladies. So let me just summarize what I want to say in 2 points. So there's a reason why I asked that question. The reason why I asked that question is because when you have a role model and you have somebody that you look up to, whether it's your mother, your father, anybody that you're putting within your space, that is the person you become like. Do you understand? So if you can think of 5 people that are the closest to you, if you mention their names in your head, that is exactly what your life is going to be like. So what am I trying to say to you? Anybody you can think of right now that is your friend or you are close to or you're looking up to, mention their names. Think of their life. That is exactly what your life will be like. So what I'm saying is that it's very important that we choose role models carefully. We choose the friends we associate with very carefully. We choose the people we look up to very, very carefully. Because the people that you're letting in your space are exactly almost 9 times out of 10, the people you will be like. And one day, you too may or may not have your own children, depending on your choice, because it's a choice now. And your kids will also look up to you. So what type of role model are you also going to be when you get there? So it's just a question for you all to go back, think about. I recommend something that you watch on YouTube. It's called The Growth Mindset by Carol Winback. If you want the name, I'll write it down for you. It's The Growth Mindset by Carol Winback. In your spare time, watch it, learn about it, reason, have questions. If there's anybody that wants any form of mentorship, I'm very happy to take on. If there's anyone that lives in Lagos and wants to come into the office and work with us for a period of 1 month, very happy to do that, okay? So I hope this session has been very impactful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Basi, and thank you very much our students that made their comments. So we are out of time now. We'll just take 10 minutes to have our questions. Please, if you have any question, you can go ahead and ask your questions. We are open for questions. Go ahead.
Yes, so my question is this. I have 2 questions, actually. The first is that looking at the country we're in a developing country, and to a large extent, sometimes finances are not proportionate. Men are perceived to have more finances than women. How do these young women manage issues like sexual exploitation and abuse and sexual harassment as they try to achieve their career goals? Then the second is, in the course of achieving their career goals, how do they also manage relationships so that their personal relationships affect their career growth positively and not negatively? Okay.
Thank you very much for that question. Basi will take up that question.
Okay, I want to take the question on sexual abuse and relating with opposite sex. Okay, I think that's a very, 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 very important question, especially in this day and age. So basically, the one thing I'll say to you is that sometimes people say, oh, dress the way you want to be addressed, which is good, right? But sometimes you might dress the way you want to be addressed and still be addressed differently, if that makes sense, right? Has anybody related to that? Good. So one thing I'll tell you from personal experience is this. We live in a world where the mind of people, the Bible says, just to be a bit biblical now, the mind of man is very evil and brutally evil. And things can happen. But the only thing I'll say to you is that anybody that has been a victim of any form of abuse, whether it's sexual, emotional, financial, etc., one thing I'll say to you is that you need to understand that what happened to you is not normal, right? And most times people are ashamed or embarrassed to talk about it, right? Or to say, this is what has happened to me. But what I would say is just find somebody that you can confide in and talk about it. Because when you are sick, you go to a hospital, you get some drugs and you treat yourself. But a lot of times our mental health, our emotional well-being, people don't talk about these issues. I think a lot of times myself and some of my friends on the panel, we always talk about how we're managing stress, how we're managing sexual advances, how we're managing all these things. And one thing I'll say to you is that the minute you start seeing yourself less than men, you will always want to be under something. So for example, you want to think that, oh, I need to just do this or do that because I want to get something. And that comes from an insecurity on the inside. When you're not competent in yourself, when you're not confident in yourself, when you don't believe that, hey, I can do this thing, and you know it, you're going to feel less. You're going to feel like you need to do something out of the box to get you to where you need to be. But I want to tell you today that actually you don't, because men, and sorry sir, I'm very sure that you appreciate when you have diverse views from women, when you have a different point of view. Everybody will connect to you the way you allow them to connect to you. So what I will say to you is carry yourself in that way that you want people to see you. And if you do have to be in a position where you have to be, in a position where you're in a position, if you know what I mean, remember your values. Your values will always be at the core of your heart. Okay, I hope I've answered your question in a way. And another thing, just to summarize, to the ladies and to the men, more to the men, when you see women come to you for anything, please look at them on the basis of what they're coming to say. Look at them on the basis of their competence. Look at them on the basis of the various suggestions that they're bringing to you. Judge them on that basis. Try to blank it off because, culture is something that is built over time by people. So if we're building mindsets of men to be more focused on that, we'll have more younger guys that are more respectful, more understanding of the environment, and open to diversity. And to the women, like I said before, please ensure that you're coming competent, prepared. And if you've been a victim of something, you can please talk to me on the side. I'm happy to do that. Or anybody else that you feel comfortable, but do not be quiet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Basi. So, Mr. Victor, I would like to throw more light on what your question regarding the financial aspects. The industry is changing, not just the energy industry. We have a lot of association backing up women in terms of finance, in terms of funding to help them navigate their career path. So we have that on board now. In fact, the Women in Energy, there is I think a $40 million loan given to women in energy. So any woman, any girl coming into that space can leverage that opportunity. And also in terms of the abuse aspects, the sexual abuse, I believe that if you're intentionally fixed about what you want, you will go for it. You don't get distracted. Yes, you don't get distracted. Sometimes you don't, you don't get distracted. Thank you.
Faith, can I jump in just to make a contribution?
Please go ahead.
It's a quick one to answer the question that was asked on when women are successful, how do they make sure it doesn't negatively impact the relationships they have? One thing I want to remind everyone in the room is who you are is informed by what you've fed yourself over the years. So when you become successful, One of the values that you must never, never lose is your humility. When we say humility in the Nigerian context, I'm not asking you to become subservient and timid, but to remain true to who you've always been and just be your whole self wherever you find yourself. And that will attract the right relationship to you. Then your financials become irrelevant. I have friends in all aspects of life, with different financial aspects. And some of us get together and what we have doesn't even come into mind, because what attracts us together are goals. You've heard about the women in engineering in Nigeria. There'll be different people of different capability, financial capability in those organizations. So the way to address it is, like my colleagues have said, and keep focused, don't get distracted. And I will add, stay true to your core, stay true to who you are. Don't lose your humility because you're succeeding. Always remember that there's somebody doing better than you wherever you find yourself. And if anything, that should push you to continue to work hard and to push and break the glass ceiling. And like we've also talked about the sexual harassment that women face. It's a global thing. And what I would just say is, if you've been a victim of this, seek help. But like Basi rightly said, it's not normal. So rather than repeat what my colleagues have said, I just want you to know that you can only control what you can control. But above all, be very clear on why you're doing something and what you're going for. And I will reiterate again, please, our male allies out there, call it out when you see these things. And the more we call out these bad behaviors, the less they'll become acceptable in our society. Thank you, Faith.
Thank you very much, Lydia. So we'll just have one more question before we close. Go ahead.
Sorry, let me just ask a question. I don't know if I would classify mine as a question or comment, but I need a response. So just hear me out. So, there's already a gender stereotype. Male dominating the science, technology, education, mathematics. Women, beauty, content creation. There's that stereotype, unarguably, right? Women, beauty, every other thing. I want one of the panelists to make a comment on that, because how do I put it? Okay, if I'm interested in any part of STEM, right? And the stereotype is that, to be a man wouldn't, there's the stereotype. I won't say a man wouldn't be a content creator, but you understand what I'm saying. There's already this general stereotype, not even just restricted to Africa. In the world, when you go, you hardly ever see women are the ones that are content creators, interested in beauty, lifestyle. And the question the moderator asked earlier was, how do you encourage women to get into STEM? My question is, how do you bring STEM into things that interest women? Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't know if my point has been heard.
Yeah, I think initially when I first started talking and I was saying is, if you look deep down, is how we're ingrained when we're growing up. The girls want to be princesses because they're playing with dolls. You go to a supermarket, and then you go to the girl aisle, and you see just Barbies and hair ruffles and lipstick. And then you go to the guy's side. I have a niece and a nephew. I'm probably, I won't lie, I buy her the dolls and the ruffles. But you go to the guy's aisle and you see building blocks and all these things. So I think we also need to change the narrative from when we're born. Now, with the women and the upcoming women and the guys, when you, I'll give an example. My sister, for instance, she's now doing the dual roles where she would buy the building blocks for her daughter to play with. And I had a friend when I was growing up in the UK, in university, and she said to me, she had an idea where she wanted to author a book, and the book was going to be sold to girls, and it was going to be about it's almost like Dora the Explorer. I don't know who knows Dora the Explorer. Yeah. So at every journey you go, you have to build something, and then you unlock the next level. And she actually made the storybooks, and she started selling it to girls, and they were very interested in it. And not only was she selling it to girls, but she was also selling it with the things that they would have to use to build. And now she's gone far. And because of that, you've seen a lot of girls interested in STEM. So to buttress my point, basically, I think women, I think it's just a subconscious bias that we're all grown with. Because even with me, like, sometimes when I go out and I say, this is what I do, they're like, no, you're not into fashion, or you're not, like, they make something ridiculous. But I think we're beginning to change the narrative. Like, if you come into the space now, there are lots of women that are engineers that work offshore. There are a lot of women that own their own engineering companies. I mean, she's in marine, which is like a highly male-dominated field, and she's able to, succeed. So there are a lot of women doing it, and there are also a lot of women advocating, bringing out more role models, because there are role models there. It's just that they were hidden, and now they're becoming to be in the forefront of, the society. So I think basically it just surrounds around advocacy. You need to push more role models out there because they exist, they're there. So when you push more role models, people like you would say, okay, I want to be Madam Uju. I mean, when I was growing up, I had a role model. She was an engineer. Now she owns her own oil field, Madam Uju. She's my role model. And everything I do, I try to emulate what she's done in the past. You hear names like Alakija that also owns an oil block. There are people there. So I think the idea is just to make sure that at any point in time, you are portraying these powerful women that have succeeded in their own line of careers, whether being an engineer or being a tech expert or being a software engineer. You need to portray them more in the bright light. Yeah, I think that's what I'll say.
Thank you very much, Talma. Lydia, please give us a closing remark. Let's round up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, to answer the question or the comment that was made, there are people in the space, and you said, how can we bring STEM into areas that interest women? I'll tell you today that STEM is beyond what we think it is. I have seen women create the hair products, and they go into the science behind the hair products. I've seen women do things in their own home, creating various technology, tables that kids can use during the lockdown. And so to answer your question is, there must be a problem that you are trying to solve. To make STEM relevant in an area of interest means that there is a need that you're trying to address, and there is a problem that you're trying to solve. The bias will not change overnight, but each of us who are attending today's session must leave today with a determination to be an ambassador for change in this space and push and drive that our world where a bias is of this is a gender roles will break down. And where we find people doing these great things that are not the typical gender, we remove the invisible cloak that is holding them back and almost make them the poster individual that others can see and emulate. But above all, I encourage each and every one of you to stay in STEM. You do need to have your own vision and dream, like we've heard the young girls. And you also need to find role models that you emulate. Your role models can change all the time. Your role models can stay the same. But what must not be constant with you is holding yourself back from achieving your dreams. Thanks, Faith.
Thank you very much, Lydia. So we've come to the end of the section. We don't have time. So thank you very much, everyone, and thank you to our dear students. Good afternoon, everyone.
Please give a round of applause to our panelists. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope we got something out of this session. So now, okay, so now it is time for a break, but during the break you're supposed to... Okay, so we're supposed to do a group photo first. So please just hold. Our panelists, please just hold.
Please, after the photograph, don't leave. We will be having an exhibition tour for the students, please. Can the students come up to the stage so that we could all be part of the photograph? Some of the students, please. Yes, thank you.
Am I going to be on screen to be part of this picture?
Please, while this is going on, we're having a lunch break for just the next 30 minutes. By 12:30, we will be having another session. So please stick around. Thank you very much. So by 1:30, we will be having another session. By 12:30, the students will be taking round for an exhibition tour. Thank you very much, everyone, for participating.
Okay, I'm sending it now. Hello? Check. Are you ready? Check.
You heard of what is called global warming. Now, even without oil, without the exploration of oil, there is still global warming. Those of you who will remember, last 2 years we had terrible flooding all over our country. This is part of the global warming. The global warming sometimes is exacerbated by the exploration of oil we do and the production that is done. By the time you flare gas, it gets into the atmosphere. But if you re-energize it and put it back, you can utilize it for a lot of things. You can use it for domestic purposes. You can use it for powering so that you don't need to have power outages. Now, why I entered here is because you are young. We want to catch you young. you have to make dreams. You have to dream big. Probably amongst you there are those who are destined to be engineers. You could be petrochemical engineers, you could be pilot, you could be gas, any kind of engineering call. So you have to dream big. If you look at people like Steve Jobs, I'm sure a lot of you must have heard about Steve Jobs, the man who invented iPad. Now I want you to Google Steve Jobs when you are back home, not here. There is a speech he gave at Stanford. Stanford University is one of the Ivy League, one of the big universities in the US. At their commencement day. Commencement day is like the day when you matriculate or you graduate. So I want you to listen to Steve Jobs' speech. It's a very inspiring speech. But the essence of it is to ignite your thought and ideas. Because you are lucky. In our days, we have not seen computer. We have no computer. We have no telephones. We have no iPad, etc., etc. But today, you have iPads, you have computers, you have laptop, you have all things that technology can avail to you. In fact, if you like now, you can refuse to go to your classroom and you can sit in the comfort of your house and attend schools and attend offices. This was done during the COVID. So technology avails us a lot of opportunities. If you read, you'll come across a lot of ideas. If anybody has told us that artificial intelligence will come to overtake the production of cars or the production of other basic materials, nobody will believe, but today is happening. So you have a responsibility to think. And in thinking, you see what value you can add to your society. Don't allow a situation where our fault lines, when I say fault lines, I'm talking about religion, ethnicity, and other primordial attachment to bedevil your sense of thinking. I'm 67 years old. I did my national service at a village called Ewu in Ugeli local government. When I was just about 19, 20, around that. Coming out of the university fresh, we had a lot of ideas. That was the first time I saw gas being flared. But in my imagination, of course, I questioned the idea of leaving gas to flare. Only for me today, more than 40 years, destiny to bring me to chair the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, which is saddled with the responsibility of controlling what I criticize more than 40. I think it's destiny. So you have a responsibility to think. Act as brothers. Think like brothers. Politics is for the moment. When you cast your vote, go your way. Let it not divide you. Let not between you and your friend have disagreement that will not add value to you or to your life or to your society. I expect a situation where next time when I come to sit with you, I should be attending your graduation ceremony in any of the universities. I give you my word, I will do that. I will leave my telephone number here with whoever is. I'm a free person. Hello, Chairman, calling to say hello to you. I'm now admitted as Bayes University. I'm reading chemical engineering. Chairman, can you help me when I finish to get a job? You come in. So I'm challenging each and every one of you to do his best to help in building and reinforcing this society. Is that a promise between us and you? There is a bond between us and you that will help in developing this country. May God continue to bless each and every one of you. May God continue to give you good health, long life, and prosperity that will someday come back here to not only see you graduate, but also to celebrate your success. God bless you, and God be with you.
If you have any questions, please, you can just ask them now to the chairman. Questions? Comments? Anybody?
So I have a question. I always wondered the hydroelectric power that's used. Okay. Good afternoon, sir. My name is Tegese Osage. I always wondered the hydroelectric power in Lagos. I wonder why they use hot water for hydroelectricity. Why? What's this, sir?
Why they use hot water for hydroelectricity?
So why do we?
Why they use hot water for hydroelectricity?
I'm not a technical person, but I don't know this. You say, why do you use hot water for hydroelectricity? Well, it all depends. It depends if you are using the turbine. The turbine, in the process of heating, definitely you want to generate power. In generating power, you use a lot of energy in itself. If you take, for instance, the Kainji Dam. Kainji is one of the first hydroelectric power that we have. Or if you go to Plateau, that is the, what do you call it? There is a small hydroelectricity power down in Barikiladi area. In the past, before the full exploration of oil, you find that most of the time it is the hydro power generation that we're using. Of course, you have to use the hot water in order to reduce the process of the engine itself. And at the same time, by the time you use the water to power it itself, it will generate its own heat. And that heat in this process create the hot water you see inside the system. It's like a radiator of a car. Before starting the car, you find that you put cold water, but even if you leave the engine running, after some time the water becomes hot, part of the process of energy regeneration. Are you okay? Yes, this gentleman here. Come. Somebody, I will be calling you one by one. That's how they did to us when we were. Feel very free. Just feel, it's a kind of interaction. Feel very free.
So as the chairman of your board, what do you do to make sure during upstream, what passes through your organization or council to make sure petroleum is not wasted or is not secreted to the environment?
Good, thank you. You see, like I've said earlier, our duty as a commission is to ensure that the Petroleum Industry Act, which President Muhammadu Buhari, which the 9th Assembly passed last year, 2021, in 2021, and then the President assented by turning it into the law. This act had been on for a very long time, for more than 2 decades, because at every attempt the government is making, there are a lot of other interest groups. So it was last 2 years that the government the National Assembly was able to pass the act into law, and it becomes operational. Some of the major achievement enshrined in that act is how best the host communities. When we talk of host communities, we are talking of the areas where oil is explored and produced. Naturally, if you operate the production of oil, the environment is normally degraded, especially in the swampy areas. Sometimes there are oil spillages, and it will affect the means of livelihood of the people. Maybe the fishing process is spoiled, the gas flaring will destroy the farmland, etc., etc. Now the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission is saddled with the responsibility of ensuring that whatever process is used in exploring oil is done in such a way that the environment is protected. the host community derive benefit. And that is why you have the Host Community Development Trust Fund, which will be paid directly to the people within the community. They have set up there is a law which you set up board of trustees, which will be managed by the people who are within that environment. And we have given rules and regulations that will guide them in such a way that nobody is going to tamper with the money. If you do, you go to jail. We're going to put our eyes there. Apart from that, the NUPRC will ensures that the exact amount of crude that is produced, which we calculate in terms of barrel, is known. And at the same time, royalty and taxes are paid so that government will have adequate revenue that will be utilized beyond paying salary and importing things from abroad. Building infrastructure. That's why you have the AKK, the Ajakuta, Kaduna kind of gas, which eventually will lead to Morocco, down to European countries. At the same time, you use the same resources in developing the frontier basin. The frontier basin begins from Enugu, Benue, Nasarawa, etc., etc. The good aspect of it is that almost all part of Nigeria is blessed with one mineral or the other. And most of this basin we're talking about, there are substantial amount of oil, which makes it easier to be explored, produced. But in production and the production of oil within the frontier basin, it makes it easier because the terrain is much more friendlier, because you don't have swamps, you don't have deep water area, and you don't have to lay pipe from here to say Port Harcourt or Lagos just to export. Rather, there is what is called integrated field development. You you design a small refinery, which you will use in getting refined products, and at the same time maybe building a small miniature fertilizer production process, kerosene production process, etc., etc. So there are a lot of opportunities. That is what we do. And that is why we are calling on you, the young ones, to be up and doing. There are a lot of opportunities and possibilities for you. Beyond even working for government, beyond working in the office. If you were at the last session we had, there is a gentleman called Obi Uzu. Obi Uzu left his business, left his banking activity, and set up a company that is making money using the ideas in his head. So ideas is what propels society to move to greater height. Sometimes if you are sleeping, always ensure you have a small diary by your side. If you are sleeping, you'll be dreaming sometime. By the time you wake up dreaming, I dreamt I'm going to build a refinery in point A. I dream I want to be an engineer working with NNPC Limited. I dream I want to be the chief executive of the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission. I want to do it by doing ABC. I want to make sure I have my West African School Certificate, or NECO, with all the credits in chemistry, biology, physics, etc., etc. That is how dream is made. Always write the dream you have. Like I've said earlier, age is on your side. And this age is supplemented by technology. During our time, we had no access to the technology you have now. If you are sitting in this room, you can key into any part of the world. So the opportunity is there for you. It is left for you to explore those opportunities and ensure that you succeed in building them up and attaining your dreams. May God be with you and help you. Where are the ladies? Get one lady to speak. After all, you are talking about gender equality. Can you call one lady? One young lady. Yeah, that's a young lady. My little daughter.
Okay. Basically, I believe that my name is Uzo Princess. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sirs. I believe that in everything regarding science, females are basically underrepresented. And I think that we can all change that if we can change our mindsets, and we can all work together to eliminate the bias and the discrimination that females face in science. So I would also like to thank you, sir, for coming to speak to us. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think it is not bias per se. You know, sometimes you have to take into account the cultural environment. I have 4 daughters. 4 daughters. 2 are married, 2 are yet to get married, and they will do. 3 of them are lawyers. They chose their own career. Of course, I come from a conservative background, of course, by my name. But I gave them the opportunity. The other is a graduate of business administration and insurance. Now, the most important thing is not about the bias. The society is changing in a very dynamic way. In the past, it is not the issue. But my concern is not, I want a situation where a lot of you will pursue the career of their choice. I will give you a simple example. If you look at Kano, for instance, Kano is one of the conservative environments in Nigeria. But Konkoso, when he was governor, Rabi Musa Konkoso, when he was governor, he changed those biases. How did he do it? There are girls who read geography, and some of them today are pilots. There are girls who read nursing, and some of them have graduated to be medical doctors. Opportunity and possibilities, I keep maintaining that. That opportunity and possibility, whether it's given to you because of your gender or not, the technology and the environment we have has changed. It will be done. So try as much as possible to explore it. I don't believe in a situation where they'll say, oh, you have to have 2 girls, 3 girls, 4. No. If you are pushful enough, you do it. Beyond politicking, you should think big, big. If you look at China, for instance, there are a lot of opportunity for girls. The same thing here. As far as I'm concerned, I believe you will make it. If you look at the commission I chair, the commission chief executive is a man. The company secretary and legal advisor is a woman. She just left here. The executive commissioner in charge of acreage management is a lady. So there is a lot of opportunity. And down the line, if you look at the department of the legal department, you have a lot of girls like you. So the opportunity is there. If you are reading law, chemical engineering, etc., etc., it's all open. The opportunity is there. Do your best, and we'll be there to support you. God be with you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Before the chairman leaves, it's like some of them are young engineers here, and they have manufactured something that they need to, maybe they need to tell. Watch your steps, sir. So the inventors can talk to us through. So we have some 2 inventions here, and you want to tell us something about what you have invented, please.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Yes, this is Premier. Here?
Excuse me. Oh, okay. You did the
So talk to us.
The inventor? Yes. Team effort. Collaboration. Let your team come. Teamwork, yeah. Teamwork. Okay. Come and join.
Okay, you need to get something.
Oh, okay.
So we created this monitoring IoT robot. It works on farms. So it has this LED display. It measures the moisture in the air, the humidity, the soil humidity rather, the moisture in the air. It also senses heat and fire. So in case there's a fire in your farm, it can alert you. And it's an IoT robot. So you can be in your farm or at home or anywhere in the world, and you're getting regular updates on your farm, and you can control it from wherever you are.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So what's the name?
Robotab.
What is the name?
It's named monitoring IoT, embedded monitoring IoT robots.
What you should get a name, get a name, and you have a choice. Either you think of somebody who has contributed, and maybe it has contributed greatly,
to operate it.
Yes. The batteries are not in. Okay.
Battery is weak.
Okay, it's on.
Okay.
Can it also measure the pH level of the soil?
Yes.
Oh, that's good. Those are the physical chemical parameters.
Yes. See the measure. You just put in the soil. It passes.
Premier
acid.
Academy.
Yes.
Where is it located?
Lube Abuja.
Where?
Lube Abuja. So
this one is.
want to explain the okay. So this is the camera that enables you to see your farm, and this is the display for physical. So you understand, like if you know with your phone, you can see the parameters here.
Okay, right now the robot is turned on, and I'll connect this phone to the robot by searching its IP address.
This is Internet of Things.
That's right. So
it's
the Internet of Things. That's the technology I'm talking to you about. Technology.
Yes. You can have remote monitoring wherever you are.
Yeah. You know? Please. We have to do some corporate social responsibility to support them.
Yeah.
It's connected.
Okay.
Yeah,
You connected to the robot's Wi-Fi.
The network,
Checking.
Yeah, usually when you're connecting IP equipment, you have IP conflict. Yeah. Because it keeps changing the IP
Where you get
addresses.
Connected?
It's connecting. When it's connected, you can view what the camera is seeing. You can control it.
And you can turn on the lights.
Okay.
In case it's dark, in case it's lit.
Yes.
So if you also log the parameters, you have data logging capabilities, if you're getting all the information, because it has to be updated from time to time.
It gets updated like in real time. Once there's a change.
Sprays fertilizer and water using fertigation process. The fertigation process.
Okay, this is the dashboard that gives you all the information, humidity, temperature, and it also senses if motion has been. It detects motion. Yeah, so when it detects motion, it will give you an alert on your phone that it has detected motion.
How much did you spend to do this?
It was the budget was like 60K, but it was more than
We
that.
exceeded the budget.
The budget was 60,000, but it was more than that. So I don't know the exact price.
At the end, how much did you spend?
Like 100.
It was
Like their crate.
about 200,000. About
200,000.
And plus the phone, so.
The commission is going to give you 250,000.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
To see how best we can.
Thank you,
Yes, take a bill number. But I get 250,000. If you do, the more you do, the more we. So you'll find their school someday when you're having a graduation. You'll keep it. Okay?
3644. 1975. 1975.
Are you sisters?
So we call them the
No, sir.
professors. Three professors. You do well, you'll be.
Congratulations.
God be with you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
2055.
Group picture with them.
With
your robot. Okay, yeah. Bring them out. Okay.
Sir.
Okay.
You carry another one.
Okay, carry one.
So chairman and the girls alone, and then
Okay,
we
then
can
we
join.
join him.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes. Yeah,
So
first
the
girls.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, good.
So we can join quickly now. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Join us.
Okay. Let's quickly join. All right.
Stay here. The white mafia.
No, because of this. No, because of this. Yes, Paul, I can say. Yeah. Thank you. Quick. You can stand up. Let me sit.
Hello. Okay. Thank you very much, sirs. So you just remain seated. We'll be having the final lecture now. Thank you.
All right, it's about evening now. So good afternoon, students, teachers from Premier Academy and British Schools Abuja. And also a very warm greetings to the principal of Premier. You know, the principal decided to join his school students and teachers, and he has been sitting here since morning. Thank you, sir. He wanted to see what this is all about, and I'm happy that he has seen for himself what this is all about. And so we're going to run through one more lecture, very brief, because as you can see, I'm happy with what happened, because it's good like this, that this was not planned. But that tells you that people are truly interested in your future, because your future is the future of the society. You understand? So you can see the man who just spoke to you is the chairman of the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulation Commission. That is the board that regulates Shell, ExxonMobil, and all the drilling, all the crude oil, the gas they are getting. They are the regulators. They are the one that tell. So it's a top person. And he says, of all that is happening here, that he wants to speak to you. That's why we had to step down what we're doing for him to talk to you. It's a great opportunity that he decided on his own to come. So we're going to make this quite short because of that, because maybe in just 20 minutes or 15 minutes we will finish this presentation quickly. It's just to stimulate. You have heard a lot about energy. Now we want to talk about the Africa and why, the reason why you are brought in. Hello, British students, pay attention. There's a reason why you are brought here. Last year, some schools came. Next year, another set of schools will come. Why we are bringing you guys from the secondary school, the senior secondary school, to understand what is going on around your world. Because you're going to be the ones to champion the interests of Africa in terms of energy. And if you don't know what is ahead of you, you still be, we don't want that to happen, but we hope that you will not become fathers and mothers tomorrow and still be say, hey, NEPA, hey, generator, hey. No. Some of the older people here that are almost grandparents, they were born doing up NEPA. They are still doing up NEPA till now. that is not a story that should happen in your time. So this narrative you must take. It's good to see what you are doing. So this is just to quickly show you. Let's run through the. So what we're talking about now. My name is Abraham. Magus Abraham Eju. You can just call me Abraham. So I'm an energy consultant, specialist. So we are supporting the program, the Energy Summit, in our own little way, especially focusing on getting the young ones, like I said, we don't just go ahead and leave them behind. So we want to talk to you about energy and the future of Africa. The question here is, who will power Africa? Next slide. So we're going to run very quickly. You have heard a lot. So we will send this to your principals, who will share it with you, because you will take this further when you go back to school. And that's why the first thing we gave you when you come was note and pen, so that if you didn't carry anything, you have to begin to write the issues you need to look at. So we'll run through energy and its importance to society, sources of energy, energy in Africa, energy potentials of Africa, energy transition. You'll be hearing energy transition, what is it about, then conclusion, and then the big question for Africa. Next slide. So energy and its importance. Next slide. So we all know quickly, you are senior secondary school students, you know what energy is. Energy is the capacity or the ability to do work. So when something can do work, someone was asking about hydro, anything that can produce work, anything that work is force times distance, that is something that can create a force and move a distance. So you fly a plane, you generate a light, you do. So all these are all forms of energy. So energy is essential. We'll not waste time for that. You know that everything you do today, everything, your phone, your automobile, your everything, your cooker, your everything is energy. And if you don't have energy, and that is one of the reasons when they say, what is the poorest continent in the world? Everybody points to Africa. Why? There's no energy. You can't go far without energy in this modern world. Next slide, please. So I will run through the details. You read it when your school gives it to you. But you can see some of the uses. There are more than this, but cooking, eating, cooling, technology, transportation, light, all these are different uses of energy. Next slide, please. So let's look at the sources. So where do we get energy from? Next slide. Thank you. So energy sources are broadly two. And I'm sure you know about this. You have non-renewable energy sources and you have renewable energy sources. What are the differences? Next slide. Now, non-renewable, these are sources that you can only use one time, and then they can never be used again. Example is what we are so used to in Nigeria, oil, gas. As you keep using your oil, so the oil in Nigeria, you keep hearing oil reserve. Oil reserve means how much oil is still remaining. Gas reserve, how much gas is still remaining. It's not forever. There are countries that used to have a lot of oil. Today, they don't have oil. They've drilled and drilled. The oil is gone. Now, some countries are just beginning to find oil because they are non-renewable. As you use them, they are being depleted. Next slide. And then the renewable are the ones, it's like you jumped a slide. The renewable are the ones that, can you go back one slide? So, okay, these are non-renewable. Okay, go on. So okay, these are non-renewable pros and cons. So like I said, non-renewable, the pros is that you can get more energy from oil, from gas, for example. You can get more power, more work. But their negative side is that you cannot replenish them. They will finish over time. Next slide. And then one other thing about them, most of them, like coal, crude oil, they have what you call environmental greenhouse emission. And so that's the greenhouse gas that damages the ozone layer and all that. Now renewable are the ones that you can replenish. For example, sun, solar. Sun has been there and you cannot deplete it. So wind is there, water, hydro, geothermal, biomass. So there are a lot of renewable energy that you can't exhaust, but you just should know how to harness them. Next slide, please. Okay, so you see different type of renewable wind power, solar for sun, hydro, biomass, so different. They are renewable energy, things that are there by nature. Next, please. And then you see the advantage and disadvantages also of renewable. Renewable, they won't run out. So it's inexhaustible. You can't finish them. Renewable has lower maintenance, you know. And so I'll let you guys read this. You are science students. You see, go ahead. Go ahead, next slide. Because I want us to go to where we really want to focus, energy in Africa. So Africa is a continent with vast energy sources. You can see renewable that we said you cannot exhaust is all over Africa. Sun, there's hardly any year you go. The sun is, in fact, there are places in this world, if they see sun for 1 month, it's like it's a public holiday because it's not, you hardly with, but yeah, the sun is there, wind is there, all these things, all are all there. Now, despite all these abundance resources in Africa, Africa has been unable to meet its demand. As of today, people are coming from some other countries to build solar power plant in Africa because they are envious. They say, what? This sun, what are these people doing? But the people who are in the sun day and night, they're just folding their hand. Even to charge the phone, they don't even have the energy to do that. Yeah. So this is a lack of tribe. So with no energy, of course, no manufacturing, no everything. They import practically everything because you need energy to run the machines. You need energy to produce. It's so expensive because it's not there. Africa currently has the lowest energy utilization in the world. In the world. Somebody said in this conference that is the managing director, current managing director of Nigeria LNG. He's a Nigerian, but he was the managing director of the LNG plant in Trinidad and Tobago, a small country in Central America. He said that country, they are just 1.5 million population. And their total power that they generate, they are not an advanced country, so don't think we're talking of US. It's one small island. Trinidad, they are 1.5 million people, and they are generating 4,000 megawatts of electricity. Nigeria is over 200 million and generating the same 4,000. A small country of 1.5. generating the same as a country with over 200 million. There's no way you make progress. You keep importing. Africa is currently the lowest per capita electricity. So available electricity per person in Africa is the lowest in the world. For more than a century after the light bulb was invented, most of Africa continent is still in the dark after nightfall. I tell you, every time I fly, especially when you go on international trip, if you are passing through Africa, you will definitely know. Because as you are, especially when you are coming back, you see dark spots. But when you are going, because there's a lot of waters you fly past, especially when you are going across, you see, as soon as you are coming to a city, you will notice, because that area, because you are far up, so you can see that area is just lit up, shining. That's the difference. But when you are coming here, you come to a city, you just be seeing car, maybe the light of vehicles that are moving on the road, or people with generator. That's what you'll be seeing. This situation in Africa holds back development in the continent and its people. We are here in Africa, so we are seeing it. Development is way behind. Next slide, please. So you can see when we say per capita, electricity per capita for, see, United States. United States, one person alone has about 3,217 megawatts for one person alone. See this other country, Germany. You can see all, and then if you come to Nigeria, one person is having about 37. So how can you compete with this man? This place where this man alone is 3,000 for one person. What will you do with? What can you do if, with all the ideas in your head? You are locked down, more or less. Next slide. Next slide, please. So this just shows you again. See, megawatt of available generation capacity. So you can see population. Even as much as, see, even as at this time they showed the data, Nigeria, they just put 160, but we are expecting a census to happen very soon. But you can hear people say Nigeria is over 200 million now. But look at it, look at available generation capacity. You can see that they are so poor. Next slide, please. So all this data we are showing to just show you how, now this is distribution of energy in Africa. So this is distribution of household without electricity access in the 36 states of Nigeria. You can see that even within Nigeria, there is a whole lot of people that don't have electricity, even with the small one that we're talking about, this 4,000 megawatts. You are even fortunate if you are in a place where you can get small out of it. Some people, listen, I've also gone to rural area. When we go for maybe evangelism, you will see every year dark. There are some people, they, in fact, forget it. There's nothing, it does not exist. Next slide. Now, it's not to come and then complain and complain. No. It's what can we do about it? What are the potential to solve these issues in Africa? Fossil fuel, they are all over the country, the continent. It's a fossil fuel which is natural, crude oil, natural gas, coal are vital energy sources that play a key role not only in economies in Africa but also in their energy system. Africa has vast potential for fossil fuel. Africa has a lot of potential, and they can generate electricity from this. These energy resources are also a major source of revenue. You can see that 95% of the, or 90 to 95% of the revenue in Nigeria comes from oil and gas. This situation, but from this figure, it is evident that most of the fossil fuel produced in Africa is consumed elsewhere as raw material. We have seen that this fossil fuel is what you use to generate electricity. But what is happening now? You produce the crude oil, you produce the gas, and you export them to somewhere else. And they use them to generate energy for their industry, to manufacture, to invent, to do things. And then they send back the finished product, and you buy it at a much higher price. So you are just a source for raw material. But that is not how it should remain. Next slide, please. So even renewable, look at Africa. See, there's no corner of the continent that does not have one thing or the other. They are just spread all over. They have. So why is there energy poverty in the midst of all this? Next slide. Then now the world is even talking of energy transition. So what is energy transition? Very quickly, it just involves a shift in primary source of energy. So now look at the situation. We have been, in Africa, they just, as we said, they just tap their resource. I'm sure that if it was possible to export sun and wind, they will even sell it probably to another place, but they cannot do that one. The oil and gas that they have, they just keep exporting, just selling, collect the raw money, and that is all. Now, what is happening with global energy transition is that people elsewhere are now saying this oil and gas is not good for our environment. It's not good. We need to transit. We need to leave the oil and gas. We need to go to renewable energy, solar. So if that happens, that means even the raw material that you are exporting and getting some money people will not buy again. And if people don't buy, first you don't know how to convert it to energy. Now selling it raw may become a challenge very soon. So I will not take you through all this. Just go ahead. Go ahead. We'll not waste your time with all this history. Go ahead. Later you read about the energy transition. Go ahead. So for Africa, it's a challenge now. The other world is saying we don't want to use oil and gas again. We don't want to use, and Africa has this in abundance. This is the time now for us to think of how do we use our resources? How do we use this oil, this gas? How do we turn it to energy? How do we turn it to all these devices that you are designing? You see, for example, the mobile phone, the GSM, Global System Network. I don't know, maybe you guys are young, but principal will know, at one time, the way you get a phone line in this country is that you have to draw a landline. You know the way they draw electricity line to your house. That is the way you draw a phone line. There was only one phone company in the country there in Nigeria called N.I.E.S, Nigeria Telecommunication Company. It was a battle. As at the last statistics I knew before God brought this, it's God that brought the GSM to us. It's this technology that changed things. As at the last data, as at 2001, out of about 160 million population, only about 700,000 has phone. That landline that you have to ring. Imagine 700,000, not even up to 1 million out of over 160 million. That means by now, if you're going to see somebody just somewhere in Abuja, you have to drive there because you can't communicate. You can't even call and say, are you at home? You just take a chance. So everybody just live like that until somebody break through with a technology that you don't need to draw physical wires to your homes to have a phone. So something needs to be done. And you, the young ones, need to think out of the box. In your research, in your schools, in your studies, you need to think out of the box. What can we do before this energy thing comes and we go to the dark age? What can we do? How can we resolve this in Africa? Next slide. Okay, so there are many things that can be done. For example, the world is saying that your oil and gas is polluting the environment now. It's bad. It's bringing carbon. There's something called decarbonization. That means there is a technology where you can say, okay, our oil, we will still use it, but we will do a technology where it will not emit carbon, but we will still use it and we will use it to generate energy. So we need to go into all this kind of research. People are saying, no, we will decarbonize. So these are the things that instead there's need to go into all these things, decarbonization, energy efficiency, low carbon energy. That means there's a lot to be done. Next slide. So we have, even if we join the transition, we transit to a low carbon energy. We transit, if this is what we have oil and gas, then how do we make it clean gas? How do we make it clean oil? What do we do with it? How do we become self-sufficient in energy? How do we start producing all the things? You see, once there's a crisis outside the country, it affects the country because you are importing 95% of what you need. Why won't it affect you? Everybody is searching for dollar like crazy because it's just import, sell, go back, import, sell, go back. So you are controlled from the outside. Go on, please. So let's go on. I want now. we'll run a conclusion. So you take some time, think, and then before we go for the closing ceremonies. It is evident that modern energy is crucial to realizing various economic and social goals relating to poverty reduction, improvement in healthcare delivery, providing qualitative education, enhancing and entrenching environmental sustainability. Elizabeth talked about protecting the environment and all that. You need energy to do all this. One of the biggest barriers to Africans' development and prosperity is chronic lack of electricity. Without electric power in this time and age, you are going nowhere. No matter, in fact, there are many people in this country that are smarter than the people who develop WhatsApp, smarter than the people that develop, Apple, iPhone, but they are stuck. Yeah, there's a limit that you can't go beyond that because you cannot do. It's just like you can't construct road for yourself as an individual. There's a limit to what you can do. So we said this continues to trap millions of people in extreme poverty. As shown in figure in the next slide, sub-Saharan Africa contributes over half of the people without access to electricity. Of the 48 countries in sub-Saharan Africa, 37 have a national electrification rate of 50%. As a result, quality of life is diminished, resulting in needless debt and stifle economic growth. For Africa, the focus should be more on technology-driven and energy-efficient industrialization. We're talking to you guys now. You still have a long way. You still have further research to. When you are being taught in school, you are taught physics, you are taught chemistry, you are taught this. You think it's a joke, it's real. It's what they taught somebody that brought this GSM. That I say, if not for this GSM, I'm not sure up to 1% of Nigerians will still have access to phone. So somebody can break through with something that we just set free and liberate people from this poverty, this energy poverty. Now you can see what we're saying. People without electricity. See Africa. You have, so even among the developing countries, you can see what's happening. In Africa, you have 634 million people without electricity. So, I mean, it's not a good statistics. You can see for yourself. And it's not even, in this part of the world, we don't need statistics because we are living inside. You see what is happening. Go on. So now, having heard all you have heard today, you have gone around these companies, you have seen what they are doing. The big question now for us, for you especially, you that are still going, your brains are still fresh, you're still thinking. The big question is, who will power Africa? When Ebola came, how many of you remember Ebola? You remember Ebola? That dangerous sickness that even once you touch the person that has it, that's all. Within minutes, you are dead. When Ebola came, Africans were begging the Western world, please find the drug for us. They were telling them that we need 2 years to research for this drug. They said, bring it like that, anyhow. When COVID came, Africans were begging, please, where's the drug? They said, we need some 2-3 years for the clinical. I said, just bring it. Anyhow, if we die, it's better. Why are you always calling on others? If not God that helped us, that the nose marks, we now knew that you can cut a cloth and put. Before, it was even China that you were getting the nose marks for. People were begging factory in China, please, when they say it's not, are you going to beg from generations to generation? Who is going to power Africa? You are waiting for your turn where you'll be doing, I'm the sole distributor of this company in China. I'm the sole distributor of this company in India. I'm the sole distributor of this company in Germany. And you are very happy because you are the only one who can build mansion in your village. Meanwhile, around you, people are eating crumbs. And you say you don't know why there's insecurity. Who will power Africa? We'll stop here and hope that you think about it. Thank you. So you just take some time, a few minutes, while we'll go and arrange your coming into the main hall, and just would not take much time again. They just hand over you your certificate officially, the two schools, and if there's time, maybe principal is here will give a vote of thanks, and then that will be it. But this is why you came. It's not for this other thing. You should think. Thank you. Sorry, let's give you a chance if you want to say. Can you check what they are doing at the hall? Quick, and come. Sorry, because Oga took our time. We said, good thing he did. So that's why we're rushing. But we'll give you time, at least another 5 minutes, if their comment.
On behalf of the students here and the whole of... On behalf of the students here and the whole of Premier Academy, I want to say thank you, sir, for briefing us about Africa and the power that we have.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So just relax, and in a few minutes, we'll come back.